moja. Basi tunatia ari kufanya ambacho ni jukumu la kila Muislamu, kukumbushana mema na kukatazana maovu. Tunakuletea mawaidha za mashehe, wataalam, maustadh, madrasa, makala spesheli na Ukti Fatuma Yakub, mafunzo na historia za mitume na maswahaba, na burudani kupitia nashid na wasifu za munshid. Tazama ukumbi wa Kiislamu nami Alishe kila Ijumaa saa 9:30 katika KBC Channel 1.
It's art, it's culture, it's fun, it's attitude.
You can see with me I have this handkerchief. And is it really a handkerchief or is it?
My name is Kevin Kasioki. Please join me each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Praise the Lord. My name is Pastor Tim Wangi, and I want to invite you for a life-changing, transformative show.
I was blinded and thrown to the floor on my knees, just like Saul.
Conversations.
Gen Z ni nani? E-boldness mnatoa wapi?
Kuna mentality fulani yenye inakujenga, si a rebellion really, but ni ya ku-question system.
Engagements that are life-changing and provocative.
When you are young, your core business should be to create value in yourself.
Join me, DJ Andy C, bringing to you Kingdom Vibe, full of gospel bangers.
Join us for Angaza Show
every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
only on KBC Channel 1.
It is always a good time on Bridge over Congo.
Catch us every Saturday from 10 p.m. till midnight.
Join me, the Rumba Supreme Leader, the Grand Ayatollah Simeon Mfumu Kimbango, and
Winnie Marie Jose, Bridge over Congo.
Mungu esilaka na nzungu te kasielenge Mungu esilaka na
Chumvi huyeyuka chunguni, lakini ladha yake hubakia.
It's art, it's culture, it's fun, it's attitude.
You can see with me I have this handkerchief. And is it really a handkerchief or is it?
My name is Kevin Kasioki. Please join me each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Habari muhimu ni zile zinazoathiri maisha yako, na zinapojiri tuko hapo.
Tunakuletea habari zinazojiri nchini na kimataifa.
Hakuna kabila ambayo iko hapa Kenya kwa malipo ya mwingine.
Mambo ya matibabu isiwe starehe ya watu wa dosi.
Tunakufahamisha kila wakati ili uwe tayari kwa yajayo.
We will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
Katika ulimwengu unaosonga kwa kasi, usahihi wa habari ni muhimu.
The only thing that has changed, Senator Khalwale, is that you are defending the indefensible.
If you allow me as a bullfighter, I'll fix him here and now and it will be sorted out.
You were doing very well until you brought out your character of bullfighting.
Tunakupa habari sahihi na zisizoegemea upande wowote.
Pindi tu walioteuliwa wataidhinishwa na bunge la kitaifa.
Na ni hapa ndipo
Darubini,
kila siku ya Jumatatu na Jumanne
saa 1 jioni.
I never heard a music so sweet. I repeat.
Wagwan, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth reggae vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday. With me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hatija ai, mani especially ukisonga.
Chapa unakuwa humiliated mbele ya watu, lakini unapata uwezi shtaki, sababu ukishtaki utafungiwa barabara ya kwenda bunge.
Kondo ya mwisho na nini? Na kufi. Na katika ulimwengu ya kiroho, unajua litwangwa hiyo kofi ni Mikaeli. Sasa mimi nauliza wewe. Bila nabii ungekuwa wapi?
Mimi angekuwa Bachola.
Unajua utapata shida.
Wewe ndio malaika ama sijakuelewa bado?
No. I'm his prophet.
Huyu yeye ni nani anawababaisha hivyo?
Pina anakusomeanga maisha yako vile iko.
Na wewe unaamini?
Makwa. Ni kweli sasa. Ulikuwa umejua list ya millionaires ulikuwa umeingia.
Le hamba ya papa.
One of the millionaires.
Billionaire?
Si ndio?
Akinirutisha tu kwa hiyo namba. Tafadhali nirutishe.
Katika Qur'an tukufu Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anatuamuru tukumbushane, kwani kukumbushana kunawafaa waumini. Kwa mujibu wa hadithi, Mtume Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam anatushauri tueneze ujumbe wake angalau kwa aya moja. Basi tunatia ari kufanya ambacho ni jukumu la kila Muislamu, kukumbushana mema na kukatazana maovu. Tunakuletea mawaidha za mashehe, wataalam, maustadh, madrasa, makala spesheli na Optifatuma Yakub, mafunzo na historia za mitume na maswahaba, na burudani kupitia nashid na wasifu za munshid. Tazama ukumbi wa Kiislamu nami Alishe kila Ijumaa saa 9:30 katika KBC Channel 1.
It's art, it's culture, it's fun, it's attitude.
As you can see with me, I have this handkerchief. And is it really a handkerchief or is it
My name is Kevin Kasioki. Please join me each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Praise the Lord. My name is Pastor Tim Mwangi, and I want to invite you for a life-changing, transformative show.
I was blinded and thrown to the floor on my knees, just like Saul.
Conversations.
Gen Z ni nani? Boldness mnatoa wapi?
Kuna mentality fulani yenye inakujenga, si a rebellion really, but ni ya ku-question system.
Engagements that are life-changing and provocative.
When you are young, your core business should be to create value in yourself.
Join me, DJ Andy C, bringing to you Kingdom Vibe, full of gospel bangers.
Join us for Angaza Show.
Every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Only on KBC Channel 1.
Kaya Musha. It is always a good time on Bridge over Congo.
Catch us every Saturday from 10 p.m. till midnight.
Join me, the Rumba Supreme Leader, the Grand Ayatollah Simeon Mfumo Kimbango, and
Winnie Marie Jose, Bridge over Congo.
Mungu esilakana nzungute kasielenge Mungu esilakana.
Chumvi huyeyuka chunguni, lakini ladha yake hubakia.
Good morning. Some few minutes after dawn here in Nairobi, you're watching KBC Channel 1. This is day 2 as Kenya enters, or rather marks its 7 days of mourning following the death of former Premier Raila Odinga. Today happens to be a public holiday that was announced yesterday to just give room for people to just honor the man that we have turned the man, the enigma, the myth. I'm Regina Manyara, and we are going to continue with this particular conversation in regard to the impact that Raila Odinga had on Kenya's socio-economic development, as well as just following up with a state funeral that he has been accorded. Looking at back what happened yesterday, just some key highlights of yesterday's events. He arrived, his body arrived from India, Mumbai, and was received by delegates, representatives from government, family, and also members of the public. The scenes that were at JKIA, that will go down in history as quite indeed it was a security breach, but it just showed that Raila the man was loved beyond and will continue being loved even beyond the grave there. We have never seen bodabodas or rather motorbikes accessing an international airport runway, but we did see that yesterday. And that was just pictures from yesterday there. Kenyans wailing, mourning a man who he's more than just Baba, the political enigma as we know him. The some are more than just family. To some, he was someone who led, with a listening ear, as he has been termed by those who have eulogized, that he did not discriminate as to who he would listen to at any time. That was JKI yesterday. That is a presidential pavilion there. The military was leading that particular procession there, and members of the public forced their way to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport as well as the presidential pavilion, insisting that he was their own man and they wanted to honor him even after death. That was yesterday. That procession later then walked all the way to Kasarani Stadium. Kasarani Stadium was a last-minute change after the crowds, people who wanted to honor the man that was Raila Odinga, were too many for the security apparatus of the day to actually control. So rather than getting to Parliament buildings where he was expected to lie instead, the body, the mortal remains of former Premier Raila Odinga were taken to Kasarani Stadium, and as you can see that what replicated itself, what we saw at JKI is what we witnessed at Kasarani Stadium. Throngs of people there shouting, placards there, wailing, and it have been told it's part of the Luo culture, and also very African to mourn and also celebrate at the same time of a life well lived, of a man who Kenya's history when it comes to governance cannot be mentioned without also talking and sharing about, the impact that Raila Odinga had. So good morning. We are on day 2. This is the second day of the 7 days of mourning the former premier. And it is a public holiday, and we are here. We're going to be keeping tabs on what is going to happen on day 2. We expect that we're going to be having a requiem mass at the Nyayo Stadium. We have a crew that is stationed there. We also have a crew stationed at Parliament, and we will be bringing you up to speed on what is happening on ground. Now, to just bring back this conversation to the studio, I'm joined by none other than Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga from the National Council of Churches of Kenya. Thank you very much, sir, for making time.
Thank you.
We will be getting back to the heart of the matter, rather the conversations at heart. But we'd want to know, if you were given an opportunity to describe the late premier, that is Raila Odinga, how would you describe it?
First of all, I thank God for what happened yesterday.
Yes.
And one of the things I learned yesterday was simple. Kenyans can unite, Kenyans can behave when need is there, when they want to. But how do I describe this gentleman? Raila, a man denied crown by the people structures, but yet loved and admired by the people.
Wow, say that again. Let's take that again.
Raila, a man denied crown by the people structures and yet loved and admired by the people.
Denied a crown by the structures, but loved by the people.
By the people and admired.
Loved and admired.
By the people.
We'll be picking up.
And you saw it clear yesterday in what happened and how it went. And again, we can thank the structures, especially the government systems, that yesterday nothing much happened at the airport. There was we cannot count of a life that got lost yesterday, but they were allowed to get in and mourn their style and just do what they wanted to do, and they walked out. I wish we would behave like that in all systems. We would really save a lot of lives.
Yes. Tolerance.
There was tolerance.
All right.
People knew, it united us together. Raila's life and death has united the country together. And to me, that was just great.
All right.
He was an institution by himself.
An institution.
Yes.
Now let's just go down memory lane. We'll be coming back with Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga from the National Council of Churches of Kenya, who's described Raila in a statement. A man denied the crown by the systems, but loved by the public. Now, the death of former Premier Minister, that is Raila Amolo Odinga, marks the end of an era of a man whose contribution to the country's democratic journey will remain etched in the books of history. And as a country and region mourns his death, we take a trip down memory lane to examine the highs and the lows and his journey in politics, liberation struggles, his significance in the country's political history that earned him the title of both an astute politician and a statesman who puts the country first before self. Joseph Wahungu reflects on the life and the legacy of Raila Amolo Odinga.
The late Raila Amolo Odinga was born on 7th January 1945 in Maseno, Kisumu County, to the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Kenya's first vice president. He studied in East Germany, graduating from the Technical University of Magdeburg with a degree in mechanical engineering before joining the University of Nairobi as a lecturer and later serving at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. But it was in politics, not engineering, that Raila found his calling, and his political journey was born. His ride into politics was not always smooth sailing, as he often found himself at loggerheads with the government of the day. His push for multi-party was one of the main struggles he will be remembered for that saw him detained severally. His incarceration was not in vain, as his push for multi-party style will come to pass in 1992 when the single-party state was repealed, birthing several parties. Raila was elected Member of Parliament for Langata, a role he played before he took a stab for the presidency in 1997, contesting against the then incumbent President Daniel Moi. He emerged third after losing to Moi. His political influence will grow over the next 5 years, and come 2002, he would once again go against the grain and ditch the ruling party KANU's preferred candidate Uhuru Kenyatta for presidency. He joined forces with the late President Mwai Kibaki and other opposition leaders to form the National Alliance for Rainbow Coalition and endorsed Mwai Kibaki to vie for presidency, a move that saw Kibaki clinch the presidential seat, ending the reign of KANU as the ruling party, which also marked the end of the 24-year rule of Daniel Moi, owing to the constitutional changes that put a two-term presidential limit. Odinga would then move to rebrand his political journey after the 2005 botched constitutional referendum, birthing the Orange Democratic Movement Party with a symbol of an orange.
Tsunami ilikuja haikukuja, iliwapeleka haikuwapeleka. wale kama sisi ambayo tulibaki tulikaa ndani ya safina ya Nuhu ndio tulinusurika.
He will use this political vehicle to vie for presidency in 2007 general election, contesting against the then incumbent President Mwai Kibaki, who he had backed for presidency in 2002. The 2007 was a hotly contested election, and the results announcing President Mwai Kibaki as the president was disputed, resulting in post-election violence.
Naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya na kuitumikia kwa moyo wangu wote.
He was voted out. He has stolen the vote. Kenyans cannot tolerate it, and the international community cannot tolerate it.
We are telling Mwai Kibaki it will not be long. He will have to quit State House because he did not win.
In the spirit of reconciliation, Odinga was announced as the Prime Minister. Raila is credited with having championed constitutional reforms that culminated in the 2010 Constitution, a landmark document that entrenched devolution and civil rights. He will later vie for presidency in 2013, 2017 and 2022, each time coming close but failing short of making it as president. Across the nation's borders, Raila is celebrated for serving in various positions, among them the Africa Union High Representative for Infrastructure. And early this year, he took a stab at the position of the Africa Union Commission chairmanship, underscoring his continental influence. He, however, lost, but his political influence did not wane. In March 2025, President William Ruto appointed him Kenya's special envoy to South Sudan, tasked with mediating peace efforts. Even as he transitioned to statesmanship, Raila remained embroiled of Kenya's democratic struggle, revered by supporters and respected by rivals. At the time of his death, Raila had led his Orange Party into government under a broad-based government, and the party he founded in 2005 was preparing to celebrate 20 years of existence next month. He is survived by his wife, Dr. Ida Odinga, and 3 children, including Winnie Odinga, who followed his political footsteps and now serves in the East African Legislative Assembly. As the curtain closes on his legacy, his contribution to independent Kenya is a story that historians will continue to pen for decades, and his ability to reinvent himself politically is one that political science students will continue to research.
Raila Amolo Odinga was born on January 7th.
That even beyond the grave, he continues to shape the narrative, looking at the highlights of yesterday up until today. And indeed, what Joseph Wahungu says, that this history will continue being written even beyond the grave. Now we want to take you from Nairobi all the way to Bondo. This is his hometown, where we're joined by Alan Alko. Good morning, Alan. Bring us up to speed with what is happening down in Bondo.
Good morning to you, Regina, from Siaya town in Siaya County. We are just right to the CBD, or the business district of the town of Siaya. Maybe if I can recap what happened from yesterday, where we were at Bondo at Kango Kajaramogi, where the homestead of the father of the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga is, where we also got to see the gravesite of the late Prime Minister that was announced earlier by the family. Dr. Oburu Odinga appeared there, and in Luo customs and Luo traditions, he went to take the news to the family of what had happened to the family, and also identify the gravesite according to tradition right next to his father and mother. Remember, the homestead has a lot of buildings and is a vast estate, and also includes the gravesite of the family, including former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's son, Fidel Castro Odinga, who passed on in 2015. So yesterday also marked the point where the family had constituted a committee in Luo Customs, a committee of the the homestead, if I may say, of the clan members in the area who also met with Dr. Oburu Odinga just to talk about the plans of the funeral that is ongoing, that is supposed to continue ongoing and culminating to the final burial on Sunday. And also in the evening we did see the digging up of the actual grave site. It went on throughout the night, and we saw mourners coming in with lit candles, just lining around the area and putting a vigil throughout the night and mourning. And as is custom in this area, in this part of the world, there was a lot the mood is despondent, and they are not going to open any shops on Sunday, and even on Saturday they don't foresee doing anything because they are sad that they lost a son of the soil. Coming into today, we also expect the preparations to continue here in Siaya, and we will make our way to Bondo. We will go and do spot checks around Bondo town there, just to see what is happening and how the preparations are ongoing as we wait to see the procession going on in Nairobi, as we are going to see in Nyayo Stadium. We are going to keep tabs for you to see this side. How are the mourners going to follow that one, and what are the businesses going to do today? We did see some border riders passing through here and just continuing with their wailing and just showing their respect to the late Prime Minister. We still continue to see that cars passing by with leaves. It is custom here that if someone great or a legend has fallen, they put twigs and trees in the vehicle just to show respect. In fact, when we are passing by and we are looking around, cars here just stop on the side of the road and pluck a twig or two from the branches of a tree and put it around the vehicle just to show respect of what has happened here. So Regina, yes, that is what we have for you right now. We want to pack up our gear and try and make our way to Bondo town, where we'll be able to link up with you again and give you more information on what is happening live in a way that only Channel 1 can do for our viewers. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Alan Aoko, for that particular brief in regard to what is happening down in Siaya town, and that now you're going to be moving to Bondo. And also thank you for the clarity. I was wondering why the twigs. Yesterday, I was actually forced to buy the twigs from bystanders on the road, and it was a must for you to actually access some of the roads, and they were selling at 50 shillings or 20 shillings depending on what you have on hand, and it caught a majority of people unawares. Then I just remembered, these are unprecedented times, and Africa is our business at the end of the day. So thank you for that clarity, Alan Aoko, in regard to that matter, that is a sign of respect. I did not know that. Well, it seems you're going to be carrying twigs the entire 7 days, so it seems. Now back to studio. I am joined by the Regional Chair, National Council of Churches of Kenya, that is Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga. And before we actually just looked at the early life of Raila Amolo Odinga, you actually termed him as a man who was denied a crown by the systems but loved by the public.
Loved and admired.
Loved and admired by the public. We've referred to Raila Amolo Odinga as man of the people, and definitely not the character in Chinua Achebe's book, A Man of the People, that political satire, but a man who would bring people together effortlessly. And yesterday, those who doubted it actually saw it. From your perspective and in your interaction so many years, what is this aspect about Raila's personality that actually made him, or rather endeared him to people, the public?
About interactions, I have interacted with him on several times.
Yes.
The time I interacted with him closely in this perspective of political analysis is during 2007, just before it was declared a prime minister, in that the Archbishop Desmond Tutu came in the country, and by God's grace, I was requested to accompany him, to take care of him in the country. So I took Desmond Tutu to Orange House. We went to State House. After that, we moved to Orange House, and I found Raila seated with his mark of the handkerchief, the mark of the suffering he has gone through. And that's the time I saw him. We were talking to him, and a sign of humility. I thought it was a sign of humility because he would wipe his eye and then continue talking to us. Raila, conviction, he had a very strong conviction of the things he believed in him. His focus on what he believed in was just amazing. So what made him what he is, I think, is his focus and what he trusted in. Raila valued unity than anything else. Actually, I'll say Raila has fought the good fight. And he finished the race. And he kept the faith of the hand, extending a hand of unity. Raila has kept the faith. He has died extending the faith of unity. You can count several times. Raila, if he was just an arrogant human being who did not care about the people, he would have done a lot, especially those scenarios. The scenario of 2007, the scenario with his brother Uhuru, the scenario with his brother Ruto. If you looked at it, all what has gone around, Raila had a specific conviction, and he was a people-first person.
A people-first person. That those who would actually, criticize that particular, view, and we have seen over the years, he's been referred to as in many names. Some of them not positive, and one of them was that he was selfish. He was always looking out for himself. That he would not take, the results as they were. In that context, does it sit well with you that those who totally believe that he took advantage of the charisma and the love that people had for him to just push the political agenda?
I'll not look at it from that dimension. To me, Raila argued for a particular level. What made him where he was? What led him to become a prime minister? Of course, he was at a particular level, you'll argue. How many have been able to reach that level, whereby the people come and bring you to a particular level, and then you realize the structure is against you, and then you turn around and extend a hand of unity? That will not say that you are selfish, but you have a conviction. Because if Raila was selfish, he would have taken a stand that would have messed us as a people, that would have brought us to a corner where we would not have been able to recover. We know of many African countries where people have taken stands. We know of our neighbors who have taken stands many years. People have died, and people have taken a stand. Some have ran in the bush. But look at Raila. When he comes back, extends a hand, and they are calling themselves brothers, and within a short time you realize the country is back. Raila has sought the seat with a lot of, he has sought a seat of frustration, but out of that seat, we have harvested joy. He sought a seat of frustration, but we harvest joy out of that. Many people have harvested joy out of that. Look at the Grand Coalition, what happened. Look at what happened when he was a prime minister. Look at what they were able to do with the Excellency Kenyatta and Kibaki, what they did and what they accomplished. So you can be sure all what happened, it was because Raila had a conviction, he was focused, he knew what he wanted, but he put people first and then the rest follow. First and then the rest follow. The rest of the issues follow.
People first and the rest follows.
Yes.
Now talking about what, we continue hearing of what people think about Raila's legacy. I'd want to rope in my colleague from the other side of the studio, that is Abdiaziz Ashim, who also has a panel this morning as we continue to just go down memory lane, looking at Raila Amolo Odinga's legacy, and also just bringing you up to speed on the funeral proceedings, so to speak. Remember, this is a state funeral. We saw what we saw yesterday. This is day 2. We're expecting live pictures.
Today and even this morning, Alan has confirmed to us where he will be buried. Of course, next to the first morning, Alan has confirmed to us where he will be buried. Of course, next to the first Vice President of the Republic of Kenya, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, his father, and of course, close to his mother. What we're waiting to see at that particular burial site is if they're going to construct another mausoleum for Odinga. You do know he has had over 40 years of experience, not only serving in the government institutions, but the political corridors as well. We wait to see if that will be the case at his Opoda farm or even at the Jaramogi Odinga, where the mausoleum is currently situated there. We also have eyes and ears on the ground at Nyayo Stadium, over 20,000 capacity city stadium. But Regina, going by the instance we saw yesterday in Kasarani, we're to see if that particular stadium itself will be enough for the mourners. You saw the numbers of mourners and supporters who came out yesterday from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. They had to be cooled down by a number of leaders, including the Homa Bay governor, that is Gladys Wanga, who had asked them, let's go to Kasarani Stadium, given that Parliament was overrun by supporters and mourners. And in terms of the space within the corridors of the August House, it was not amicable for just for the mourners themselves. But of course, on this particular end, I do have Tom Ojanga, a long-time Raila Amolo Odinga friend, also an international coordinator for Odinga, not only for the party, but in various other aspects. Tom, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Okay. Also, we do have Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch. Osido, as always, pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And maybe we recount, Osido. Yesterday we were here, we talked about a program that was set out by the Deputy President, and it will seem the program was thrown out of the window given that the mourners, especially, let's start at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, what we witnessed yesterday.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashim. And I remember that yesterday morning we were asking whether the mourners would be allowed to get into the VIP pavilion. And we had a debate here, and ultimately out of the air we said that it looks as if the KDF officers would actually open the gates because the numbers were surging and it was becoming uncontrollable, and that's purely what happened. I saw a clip on TikTok, people asking, how did this Raila Amolo supporters even get motorbikes? I mean, got motorbikes into the VIP pavilion. And it basically shows you the kind of support, the immense network and the coordinated amount of numbers across the country, if not the globe, that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga had. And if you also looked at how the the convoy moved now into Kasarani, it largely looked as if the people actually overran the security personnel and overtook the program, as you rightfully said. And it still cements the fact that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga was a social justice people person, in terms of looking at the downtrodden, and he had a huge voice for the voiceless, and people therefore took that as an opportunity to really want to celebrate him and to come out and become joyful in not just his life, as we saw during his several campaign rallies that he organized, but really even that at his point of death, then people were willing to come out and celebrate and show that in the mightiest of their numbers. And it's interesting to even notice the manner of let me call it disorganization and confusion that was caused at Kasarani by the same people, and I think that it already gives us the kind of semblance of what we expect both today at Nyayo Stadium and even in Kisumu, Moi Stadium, if actually he will be taken there and all the way to Bondo. And remember that when his elder brother, now acting party leader, went to Kangoka Jaramogi, he actually told people that we are wondering whether we really need to go to Kisumu, and whether we also need to open this funeral to the public, because it looks as if we might not be able to contain the supporters of Raila Amolo Odinga. And I think for me that is something that really would be able to pacify Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, that people have actually come out in large numbers to show love to him, both while he was alive and also right now when he is dead. But as I finish, I think it's a rallying call to the security personnel and also to the national the planning committee of the burial, to begin to think outside the box, particularly in terms of communication. I thought that part of the confusion yesterday was that there was not proper communication, because you take people to you ask people to get to Kasarani already within a short time it is packed. When I left here, I passed through Parliament, and almost all the roundabouts were locked. You could not go to anywhere. And I drove all the way to KTN and along Mombasa Road at Nyayo Stadium, because people thought he was going to be taken to Nyayo Stadium. The numbers were already surging. It was impassable. And you had to beg people and, plead with them and request them to allow you to pass through all the way to Mombasa Road. And I think that already the security personnel and the National Planning Committee therefore need to think through how do you effectively communicate to people. When you tell them, let's go to Kasarani, have you put in place a proper equipment? Because largely there was no communication. I saw my governor, walking over from the VIP dais to go and talk to a massive number of people just off his mouth. It's not possible. You must be able to install a proper public address system, the one that Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga used to invest in during his campaign, so that when you say higher, people listen to that voice and they are able to, to relate to what is happening. So I am hoping that it gave us an opportunity to learn good lessons, including around crowd management. Remember that even the KDF officers, the NYS officers, the GSU personnel that were there tried to put a human shield, and the supporters overran them. In finishing, I honestly agonize with the people who were injured. We didn't need to experience that, because Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga cannot live his 50 years on tear gassing, police brutality, and that even up to his death, when people come out to mourn him, we also see tear gases. I thought that was quite unfortunate. It should not have happened. But the beauty is that God has given us a new day to learn lessons from what happened yesterday. Yes.
And Tom, as you give us your opening remarks, you saw yesterday the admiration that was out there, given that many a times politicians are accused of giving out inducements for large crowds to come out. But yesterday, sum it up. What was the feeling like?
I think many of us who have worked closely with Raila over the many years doing campaign logistics and what have you, weren't surprised. Raila, number one, never buys crowds. And it was expected that people would turn out in large numbers. It was expected that people would be very emotional. I mean, at least from where I stand. And it was expected that the security might be overwhelmed. I think the gap is that on the security side, probably they didn't plan very well. When they announced that they will be viewing in Parliament, the first thing we thought, this is not going to be possible. And it came to pass. Then they said it will be brought to leave, that was not going to happen. So it was very clear for us, right from the beginning, that a lot of this, that which happened, was meant to happen or could have happened. I think the Presidential Funeral Planning Committee and the Logistics and Security Committee closely with Raila's team, personal team, to get learnings which they have had over the years. Because Raila's always had teams planning his campaigns, his movement. And the crowds that came yesterday were mainly from the people that would usually attend these rallies. Yes.
And of course, we even heard from our very own, that is Alan Aoko, was updating us all the way from Bondo. They have been camping there. Unfortunately, they went there for an investment conference, but it turned tragic, of course, for the people of Bondo and the country at large following the announcement by President William Ruto on Wednesday. And of course, what interestingly, Osido, our very own reporter clearly stated, is the tradition that the acting party leader of ODM and the senator of CIS today had to go all the way to Bondo to inform the elders. Maybe talk us through why these traditions are very important in terms of letting not only the elders but the community at large the death of Raila Odinga. And even after telling the elders, it was now officially communicated to the community that now Baba has passed on.
Yeah, very good question. Actually, what the CIS senator, my senator, did was what we call in Luo, Tiro Yuak. Like you report the cry. So you let people know that someone has passed on. And it's done to almost everyone, but especially to people considered leaders and also elders. So that despite the fact that Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga's death is global news, but it doesn't matter to the traditions of the community, and different communities have different ways of reporting deaths. So he had to go and report to the community and to his community elders that we have lost our son. And from there, the official planning, despite the fact that now there are national, planning committee of the barrio, etc. But there has to be also an official planning committee laid on the ground and at the community level. So it is that community that will decide, for example, on the burial site. It is not for the president and the deputy president and the National Planning Committee to decide where Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga would be buried. So based on his will, and I'm glad that the senator indicated that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga had desired in his will that he be buried close to his father, the first president of Kenya, and vice president.
His father.
Yeah, his father and also his mother. Because if you go to Kango Kajaramogi, they're almost placed close to each other. So that from there, concerns even around digging the grave begin. What are some of the rituals, quote unquote, that need to happen before the digging of the grave begin? And that is now based on the local community to be able to do, and not the national planning committee. And so from there also issues around the official burial planning process begins. Of course, there is a plan that the president took us through, that yes, this is happening, it should happen within 72 hours. But remember that the community also decides who speaks on behalf of the community. So it is at that official engagement that Mheshimiwa Oburu Oginga did, that therefore they begin to think through who does what, how is it done, how do we relay the local processes to the National Planning Committee. And so basically that's what that means. There are other things, for example, that the Council of Elders are expected to do. I know yesterday that Mike and a few of us here were laughing when I was saying, Joey! And so there are also concerns or a mechanism within the community in terms of how they send what is called gueyo. So gueyo is like a piecing, and Ojango knows very well, probably much more better than I do because he looks elderly than I am, in terms of appeasing the spirit of Raila Odinga, so that when he comes over, there are moments when people say that like you create a lot of chaos on the road and the body refuses to get home. But when you do a lot of things which now Mheshimiwa Oburu Oginga has gone to do with the community, then the community also feels pacified. Those who have questions have an opportunity to ask them before the official burial, and of course before the body arrives over there. So allow me to send some gueyo here and say, Yimichamo imari, Yimodong kirikigen, Joey! Yimichamo imari, Yimodong kirikigen, Joey! Agwambo, Kinga, Baba Fidel, Wagakini, Nindigikwe, Hirokama.
And if you're just joining us, this is not a Luo station, but at the end of the day we allow it because that is what you're going to see not only in Kisumu, Siaya, even today at the Nyayo Stadium. Let me go now back to Tom. Tom, we're talking about those traditions that were yesterday adhered to. When the senator arrived, we even heard the house was opened up for the first time. Why is that significant that the mourners and supporters had to respect the house be closed until the official head of that particular family comes and opens up that particular house? And also we witnessed even the locals from that particular area. Everyone was issuing a bull yesterday.
Yes, I think as Africans, we shouldn't actually be in the business of questioning our traditions. First and foremost, Raila comes from a society, a community with its traditions, and those must be honored. Like they say in English, a tree without root is deadwood. And the problem we have as African society is trying to get foreign traditions to erode our own traditions. It was very important yesterday that Senator Oburu goes as elder brother, sits with the elders of the community, identifies the gravesite, and perform all the necessary rituals and rites in preparation for the arrival of the body. And this is a beautiful thing that we should all be proud of. Every community in Kenya has its traditions, and the more they distance themselves from their traditions, the more its members begin to have mental difficulties and confusion. So I think it's important we need to use this opportunity to encourage that our African traditions are beautiful and they should be respected, performed. And what happened yesterday and what will happen, of course, on Sunday is good.
And probably if I could add on to that, remember that even as we talk about traditions, and this is based on what is called the ATR, Africa Traditional Religion, Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga is an Anglican from information that we have, and it is the Anglican Church that is going to be presiding over his official burial ceremony. And I am sure that the church has also taken note of all the traditional processes, and ultimately when he goes down and we say soil to soil, back from soil you came and all that, we will have cemented the fact that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga believed in a Christian tradition, and the wife herself, Mama Ida Menpin, is also a canon of the Anglican Church. So that is a very profound title, that therefore the church cannot let go. That even post Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga's burial, then the church will also have a very strong space to be able to significantly show the space of spirituality and the space of Jesus Christ in the family of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. I do not know whether there is going to be a Holy Communion service, because sometimes there has been plans to accord, people of the stature of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, a Holy Communion service when they pass on. I know that because I am also an Anglican. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you so much. And of course, I want to involve Ray in this particular discussion, given that, of course, the family and the late Raila Amolo Odinga had, of course, wished for an Anglican service, of course, which will be carried out. Already the itinerary is out. Members of the public are expected to sit at exactly 8 so that the service can exactly start at 9 a.m. so that it can end a little bit earlier on, so that the people who did not get a chance to view the body of the late former premier, that is Raila Amolo Odinga, will have the chance to do so. Yesterday you saw that particular commotion, but let me take you over to Regina.
Yes, we have had the cultural aspect of it. Now we want to look at it from a religious perspective. We expect that we're going to be having a national memorial service at the Nyayo Stadium from 7 a.m. And we have the Regional Chair, National Council of Churches of Kenya, that is Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga. We'll look at what do we expect during this particular memorial service. The questions that have been posed from the other side of the studio. If we're going to have, a communal kind of service, you will take us through that. But also joining us on this other side of the set is none other than Oscar Mondi, a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us, Oscar.
Thank you very much.
And we started off by just asking our guest this morning, what was your highlight of yesterday's happenings? How would you term it?
Thank you very much again, Regina, for that nice introduction, and again discussing about yesterday's. Raila is Raila the Enigma. In his silence, he still controls his fanatics. And whatever was happening yesterday, that was Super Raila. And no other politician. Somebody said that Mwai Kibaki was a president and was buried here. Former President Moi died and was buried, also a pure statesman. But whatever we saw yesterday in Baba, you know the stories of Baba while you were away one time, and 18 people lost their lives when Baba was coming from the United States one time. Yesterday, unfortunately, some other people also must have lost their lives. I've not really confirmed that. But this is typical Raila. Yeah, this is typical Raila. This is the bigness. I told you that Raila is bigger than life.
And even from the grave, he's actually making the airwaves.
Yeah, that's why, because I told you, some of us, since we were born, we didn't know Raila will die, and Raila cannot die. Because his legacy lives on. Like Mandela, Mandela of South Africa, still what is happening in ANC, they do things the way Mandela will do them. So Raila's legacy, Raila's spirit, Raila's struggling will live on. What I like about yesterday, that whatever inspiration he inspired in the people's hearts, they lived on. It's lived on. And, you know, in monarchies, whenever a king dies and they declare the death of a king, they say, the king is dead, live long the king is alive. So Raila, I think, for whatever he did for the last 20 years, for the last 30 years in this country, will live on, and we will live with it, and people will continue to agitate for the things that Raila stood for against the police state, against humiliation, against oppression, against an overt state that sometimes can be so much harsh and hard on the people. So whatever I saw was not any different from me. Today, tomorrow, I think the security apparatus will make serious arrangements about tomorrow.
All right.
Because tomorrow when he gets to Kisumu, and you've heard my colleague here who comes from my county, with the diet of whatever Oburu went to do yesterday. You know, when somebody's died, what he was explaining about terror work, what happens is, even if you die in hospital and there are nurses around you, there must be a doctor who is coming to, who has to come and confirm that you are clinically dead. Not that, and you might be in unconscious. So there must be a doctor who has that expertise, who is going to confirm that you're clinically dead. So what Oburu went to go and do, went to do in Siaya, he was going to confirm to the elders. Again, there was a thing that was done yesterday culturally. Identification of the grave.
Where he'll be buried.
Where he'll be buried. We just not buried helter-skelterly. Among the Luo, we say, we return, you know, when you're given birth, when your mother gives birth to you, there is a placenta.
Yes.
And that placenta is buried behind your mother's house. The placenta is buried just behind the of the gravesite must be done by not any other Luo, but the elders of a clan called the Kawur clan. Where the Kawur clan, where Raila Odinga came from. Raila Odinga comes from Bondo, from Siaya County, Bondo sub-county. He also comes from a clan called Kowak. The larger clan is Kowak clan. Some of the Kowak people live in southern part of Nyanza. But the small clan, the small sub-clan it comes from is called Kawur clan. So the Kawur elders are the elders that Oburu went to talk to for the identification of the grave site. So he was buried, according to the will, he wanted to be buried next to the mother and the father. And that is where they identified and they sank this grave yesterday in the night. And we don't sink graves during the day again. We also have to do them in the night. In the wee hours of the night. By midnight, the grave has been done. So the people who are going to work on the grave can start working on the grave, and by now it is already done.
All right. What we are seeing right now with Raila Amolo Odinga's funeral proceedings is that it's an intricate balance between culture, traditions, what the family wants, what Raila himself has dictated he wants, the 72 hours. Then we also have, from the statesman point of view, what the government wants, and now also what the people want. Now let's hear what the church is going to be doing for Raila Amolo Odinga. We're expecting to have memorial service at the Nyayo National Stadium. What should we be looking out for, Reverend?
Now, I want to start where Kevin and him, they have just, on the analysis, have just left. Our definition of culture from a religious perspective, culture is man's effort to organize his or her society. And so that's how they have organized their cultural perspective. Now, if we look at this from the perspective of Raila, Raila was a balanced man. I said here the other day that if you want to know Raila, Raila had some strong foundational truth. He had a religious foundation, he had a family foundation, he had a social foundation, and he had an academic foundation. So what meant Raila to be Raila, we see, it is those perspectives. The religious, family, and social, and then academic. So what happened here? What happened here, there are many people in this country who will tell you that I'm going to die for the country. You cannot die for the country before you die for the first one, for your God, religious foundation, for your family foundation. And then we come to social, graves and all that. Now that is now our cultural foundation. So Raila was a well-balanced man. So whether the names you give it to him, you'll see now that is what formulated Raila. Why are people behind him? Why are people following Raila as he is? They are following him because Raila has taught us how to balance those things. What do you expect to see today? From the religious perspective, from the foundational part of it, you see, there was no much struggle which religion and what's going to happen. Yes. Because Raila identified himself from the word go with an Anglican church. An Anglican church is a member of the National Council of Churches, and it's a Protestant church. So what we expect today during the service, during the church service, we expect to see a Protestant liturgy. A Protestant liturgy will take place. About Holy Communion, I don't think, Kevin, Raila Holy Communion is not a sacrament. It's a sacrament in the Protestant church. There are only two sacraments. So theologically, we don't expect to see Holy Communion, taking wine and bread, but we expect to see prayers offered to God for the departed soul. Theologically, we believe, as they say from the cultural perspective, that God created man in his own image. Remember, he created man in his own image. So what you see there is the image. What we are running around is the image. The gentleman I see here, I see the image of God, but the soul is in him. So Raila is exactly what they say. The king is dead, but the lion is in the mountain. The soul is alive. And that's the spirit that makes people run all over. So, do we unite together? Yes. God created man in his own image. So the image is there. We are running around the image. What we do with the image will go towards the cultural perspective as man's effort to organize his society. But now the liturgy itself will be controlled. I think these are some of the things we need to learn about being balanced, a balanced man. A balanced man must be mentally mature, physically mature, and spiritually mature. Raila knew how to do this. Raila, as a politician, and with respect of religion, you'll find Raila sometimes in Mombasa with wearing with those cultural traditions of the Islamic religion, with respect of religion and the spirituality of from the Muslim. Raila, you'll find him from the northeastern. And then Raila on Sunday, you'll find him at the All Saints Cathedral as a member of the Anglican Church. Traditionally, that's where he has been brought up, and that's why, with due respect, the Anglican bishops will lead us through. We'll all participate here and there, like all of us from the National Council for Churches. Our chairman is heading to Kisumu, to Bondo. Yes. Our Secretary General will be at the Nyayo, and I'll be with you people here, just saying, you know what, we respect Raila. From the National Council of Churches of Kenya, we all respect Raila from the religious perspective, that you are one and the other. But what I want to say quickly is that I think as we talk about all these things, we need to ask ourselves, what do we learn from all this?
Before we talk about what we learned from, you've told us we're expecting a Protestant liturgy.
Yes.
Over the years, in the recent weeks, we have seen people using the podium, as a moment to just push the political agenda. We saw yesterday a myriad of politicians trying to quell the crowds that had gone to Kasarani. None could. Is the church ready for such an eventuality? So what you're seeing on your screen is actually Nyayo Stadium, that we're going to be having, that particular national memorial service happening in not too long. How can we steer away from politics this morning, Reverend?
It is possible because within the Anglican liturgy, I don't think there is spice. There is all what the cultural people, the Osido and the rest will do their business. And then the politicians do their business. But when it comes to specific Anglican liturgy, they are the psalms, they are the prayers and all that. And so I don't think the congregation should be able to, if they respect Raila, and we all respect Raila, during the church service, It's God speaking to the people as people speak to God about Raila.
All right.
And so we should not interfere. So in the liturgy, I don't think the political issues, but by the way, what's politics? Politics is politics is promotion of awareness in the community. So church and politics are one. They are sisters because they both promote awareness in the community. But politics, as per the definition of Kenyans, where people, where we talk of politics, it means I speak some crazy things about him.
Yes.
I don't think that should be accepted.
It shouldn't be accepted. Oscar, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, we'll talk about the life and life history of Raila Odinga. And you remember I talked to you about the birth of Raila Odinga, and now we're talking about the death of Raila Odinga. You know, passages of life, there's birth, there's initiation, then there's adulthood, and then there's death.
Yes.
I just remembered about what Reverend is talking about here. About there was an event of baptizing Raila Odinga and Oburu Odinga.
Yes.
When Jaramogi Odinga went to Anglican Church now, again the history of the Anglican Church and the Railas, so that Raila Odinga and Oburu Odinga get baptized. But the bishop at Maseno Church refused to baptize the two sons of Jaramogi Odinga. And because he couldn't give them, what do you call what names? The English names.
The white man's name.
The white man's names. And he names Raila Amolo Odinga and Oburu Oginga. And the bishop said, no, you have to give them English names. And Odinga, in his own culture, refused. That, no, those are not our names. I've named them and you have to baptize. And the bishop refused. So Odinga had to write to the Archbishop of Canterbury. You know, the head of Anglican Church is the Archbishop of the Bishop of Canterbury. And the Bishop of Canterbury wrote back to Odinga and told the bishop in Maseno Church that you have to baptize Oburu Odinga and Raila Odinga in their names. So this one again is a good thing about the political lives of Raila Odinga. I don't know if they got baptized at long run, but I think
they did.
Yes, they did.
That's why we're having this ceremony.
Yes, and I think if they did get baptized in the long run, but unfortunately, the wife to Raila, to Odinga, in the same, not yet to Uhuru, if you read not yet to Uhuru, left in a half because she was very embarrassed because she was like, no, just give them English names so that they get baptized, because she had brought, I think, friends
yes, to witness the ceremony.
Yes, but these things of who Raila, and you know we call him Agwambo, who means the mysterious one. Yes, and enigma in English. And now in life and death, he remains the same person. And everything that happened in the life of this young boy who comes from Bondo, goes to Xaverian School, goes to Miranda, and goes to Germany to study, and gets back here and becomes a person who has fanatical following, and people who've also lost their lives, many who've lost their lives in fanatical support of Raila Amolo Odinga. So we need to see it as Kenya and see where do we move from here without Raila, because yesterday when I was in this station again, I said it's a bit scary.
It is scary. We'll talk about the scary moments, but before we get to the scary moments, let us look at the light moments that was Raila Amolo Odinga's legacy. You know, he is not only known for his political prowess, but also his ability to crack the ribs of both friends and foes. He earned different nicknames in different times, including Hammer, Tinga, Agwambo, and even Baba, celebrating the life of Raila lived through to the fullest.
Tendawili! Tendawili!
Raila Odinga clearly had a lot of witty remarks.
Tendawili! Tendawili!
That left Kenyans' ribs cracking.
Hiyo ni nywele. Si unajua wasiwasi wa nywele? Akiwa kwa kichwa inaitwa nywele. Akiteremka hapa inaitwa nyuzi. Lakini bado ni nywele. Akiingia kwa macho hapa inaitwa kope. Bado ni nywele. Akiteremka hapa inaitwa shurubu. Lakini bado nini? Akifika hapa inaitwa ndevu. Bado ni nini? Ikifika hapa kwa kifua inaitwa malaika. Bado ni nini? Lakini ikiingia kwa kwapa na huko chini niliambiwa, lakini nimesahau.
Undoubtedly, the man was a super storyteller with a rich collection of African proverbs.
Haya, anaishi kwa mwili ya binadamu, lakini ana tabia ya kinyonga. Nani hiyo?
Raila had a way of demystifying serious issues with a touch of humor.
In the evening, he was taken to dinner, and he found a palatial mansion, Olympic-sized swimming pool. The sofa sets were imported from Britain. Most of the chinaware were golden. So he asked his host, how do you achieve all this? He took him to the balcony. And so, do you see that highway there? The Malaysian could see nothing. He was told 100% here.
His life had hilarious, if not oops, moments.
Ukikubali kusujudu na kuniabudu, hii yote itakuwa ni yako. Lakini Yesu akamwambia wewe nenda mbali shetani.
What about when a man in Kwale County decided to discipline this political enigma? Oops moments aside, this man Raila seems to have had a soft spot for dancing. Indeed, Raila Amolo Odinga lived life to the fullest with laughter, rhythm,
Iron like a lion in Zion.
and unforgettable charm.
And those of you who are not here, who are watching wherever you are, those who are at home, kula kwa macho.
Raila was a familiar face in stadiums across the country, whether cheering for his beloved Gor Mahia FC or Harambee Stars, the national sevens rugby teams, or renowned Kenya World Athletics champions. As the patron of Gor Mahia, he was not just a ceremonial figure but a genuine benefactor, supporting them throughout their initiatives and campaigns, with a recent donation of 10 million shillings, where he urged them to do their best to reclaim their title in the 2025-2026 season, after honoring his pledge to reward the team 1 million shillings when they advanced in the CAF Champions League last year. Raila's support extended to the national soccer team Harambee Stars. He cheered them to the knockout stage in the recent 2024 Chan Pamoja tournament, where he promised each player 500,000 Kenya shillings after their victory over Zambia, a gesture that underscored his commitment. He was always among the first dignitaries to offer a word of encouragement as Kenyan athletes took on the rest of the world or celebrate their victorious outings, as many will attest to, the most recent being the Tokyo World Athletics Championship, where Team Kenya finished second overall. Raila, who also played for Bunge FC when he was a member of parliament for Langata constituency, was also a devout Arsenal fan. His love for sports was immortalized through the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay, which was officially completed in May this year. The stadium stands as a testament to his vision for nurturing sporting talent and youth development in Kenya.
Was a football supporter, especially when it comes to the mighty Gunners. At least he was a little bit jealous compared to other teams, but when it came to Arsenal, he guarded it very well, even visiting the Emirates, watching their games live. And of course, every time Baba visited the Emirates, the Gunners were able to win their matches. Now, in terms of the light moments, we're also keeping tabs, especially on Nyayo Stadium, so do not worry. We'll be seeing those live images from Nyayo Stadium a little bit earlier on. We showed it. If you're just joining us, do not where we'll be showing you those live images, given that Kenyans are already seated. The timelines that were given by the country's second in command, there you have it. Those are live images from Nyayo Stadium. As you can see, the stadium is already packed with the mourners as well as supporters of the late Raila Odinga. At exactly 8 a.m., the security officers will be closing that particular door. But if the need will be, we wait to see if they will change up that particular timeline to allow more, because we know the capacity stadium, Nyayo Stadium, is just over 20,000, and we do know more than over 20,000 people will be trekking to Nyayo Stadium just to have a feel and view the body of that great man. And of course, the government assured yesterday, as well as the funeral planning committee, that after that particular state funeral service, people will be having an opportunity to view the body of the late Raila Odinga. Going back to Tom here. Tom, many people revered Raila Odinga as a towering political figure, but what is that particular side that not many people were able to see?
Raila was many things. I mean, first and foremost, is known for being a very shrewd politician. But apart from that, he was also a very strong family person, and a very social person, actually, very interesting person to have as a friend. And his political contribution, or his contribution to the country, is somewhat limited to his participation in multi-party democracy, devolution and all that. But I can tell you that there are many other things that Raila did for this country that probably don't come to the limelight as it should. For example, the technology transformation of this country that now gives the Gen Zs much space to participate on Twitter and X was actually started by Raila, because I remember between 1998 and 2000, we went around the country doing the Computer for Schools project, which went took computers to almost 400 schools for free, establishing computer labs in about 400 schools for free. Now, between 1998 and 2002, already there were like 5 million Kenyans that had accessed technology for free. And this is the foundation of technology adoption in Kenya that allows many Kenyans now to be in social media and to participate in that. So people forget that. So they forget that it's not just the democratic space, but also the space in technology. Another thing that is also rarely mentioned is that Raila was very strong. I can say this because I participated in most of those things myself. I was very strong in social transformation, and also coming up with ideas for economic transformation. I remember he would call at 6 o'clock and say, what is Gartner Group of Forest Research saying on the future of this and that and that, and we would go full blast doing research alongside our daily jobs, you know. So I want to mention in early it was around 2000. So the GSM network has just come. You know, for the first time, there were about 40,000 mobile phones in Kenya, but Nokia had just put up the GSM as a standard for communication. In GSM, there was something called location-based services that would now allow wireless technology, you know, and location-based services. So that is 7 years before M-Pesa. So already we were thinking at that time of wireless finance. And then Raila organized the e-transformation event at Norfolk Hotel, in which all CEOs and bank leaders were invited in collaboration with Deloitte Consulting. And these matters were in that conference. You know, what is the future of finance, financial inclusion, wealth inclusion, and that's where it was. The conclusion of that conference was that the future is wireless finance and micro, small, medium enterprise and microfinance. That was long before you had all this MSc, you know, 7 years before M-Pesa, 7 years before, you know, all these microfinance enterprises that you see today. So it was quite ahead in that aspect. And this is something that is normally not brought into picture. Another thing also, in terms of, people do not know that Raila was actually the first deputy director of KBC. And KBC is built on a template from DIN, Deutsche Industrie Norm, which is German industrial standards, And Raila, having started in Germany, brought that here, and it's only through KBC that we are able to have products that we can trust. So in that aspect, people don't really associate Raila so much with that. And many things. There was a lecture at the university. I was mad yesterday when I don't know which TV, but they say, Raila had a diploma in Germany. There's nothing like that. I studied in Germany myself. It's called diploma without an A at the end, which is different from the English diploma. Diploma is a master's. Actually, it's even more superior than a master's degree, because when you have a diploma, you have 1 year to get your PhD. So I don't know, but somehow the people in this country cannot differentiate between what is not English and what is English. Diploma is English, diploma is German. It's very continental European. So there are many other things. And he studied mechanical engineering in Germany, Magdeburg, one of the best universities in Germany. And he taught at the university. He brought KBC, standardization. People just think of Raila as, he gave us free speech, he gave us the constitution, but there are many other things. All these small, medium enterprises and the foundation of microfinance in this country, the foundation of wireless finance, for which we are known in terms of M-Pesa and many other mobile money operators in this country, the general financial inclusion and wealth inclusion framework, that was built by him. So he wasn't just the politician. Raila was a social transformation architect, foremost. It's not just democratic space, no political activist, but it was a social transformation. So a lot of things have happened in this country that would probably maybe have delayed, but he brought that much earlier forward. I worked with him very closely on that, so I know, that we were working when Kenya had only 40,000 mobile phones. 20,000 or 30,000 of which belong to corporates. So normal people only 10,000 phones. Raila was already thinking about wireless finance, which is today M-Pesa, right? So many things.
Okay. And Kevin, in terms of separating the two, given that you've just heard from Tom, it is very hard to separate what Raila Amolo Odinga means to many people, especially to the political leaders. You heard them yesterday clearly stating he was a mentor to them. So in terms of his not only political side, we've just heard from Tom what he has been able to do in various other sectors. What other sides are we not able to see about Raila Amolo Odinga?
Very good question. I think one of the things that has been largely pronounced on the life of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga is his political side. But a lot of the times people forget that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga is also a businessman. He's a gentleman who has a company that provides regional materials. If you talk about East Africa Spectre, and also the molasses plant in Kisumu, of course it has challenges and a lot of things that have not been going on well over the years. But the fact that you run a company that can be able to supply gas cylinders to the regional market is not a small thing, which is largely where I think Mama Mainpain, Ada Odinga, spends most of her time along Mombasa Road. Beyond that is the kind of contact and network that Mheshimiwa Amolo Odinga has with businessmen along more or less globally. And these are people that you see coming up, especially during his campaigns for the presidency. And it is difficult, therefore, to have businessmen invest, not just because of their interests politically, because then you want to rely on the political, the politics to set up the business environment space. But it is very difficult to have people just investing in you like that. So Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga also invested in businessmen and women. And that therefore means that he also had a very close touch with most of them. And I think that Kenyans probably can be able to relate to the Mount Kenya business community, that people who have largely been part and parcel of his campaign. And so the business or the economic or the entrepreneurial spirit of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga is one thing that has not been properly or largely talked about, especially because probably he's seen from a very strong political perspective. Of course, that is also supposed to leverage on his engineering degree, and people probably do not see him providing answers. I remember when he was the roads minister, and the stories around demolitions on Thika Road, along, so that Thika Road can be able to be built. Of course, painful moments, but you look at the kind of grace that now people have, that you have a dual carriage that takes you all the way from Nairobi to Isiolo and to Marsabit, if not Ethiopia, at the border of Kenya and Ethiopia. And this is largely credited to Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, so that even as we talk about his political side, but the infrastructural aspect that therefore leads into the strengthening infrastructure that also support economies, largely through connecting societies, communities, and even countries. And I know over time we know him for talking about infrastructure, infrastructure. Look at him during his campaigns for the AUC.
Yes.
And I have a green lapel here for the AU,
Okay, I'll come back to that thought. Hold that thought, Kevin. I want to take our viewers to Bondo, back to our very own Alan Oko. Alan, good morning and good to see you once more. Where are you? And tell us, what have you been able to gather so far?
A great stature, and the reason why we're here at a very historic moment at this time for the country, let me just give you a brief history of this university. This university was started as a Bondo University College, and it was founded by an order, legal order number 56, and was founded in 2009. It was renamed in honor of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the late Prime Minister's father, at a time when it was now receiving its charter in 2013. And why are we talking about this university, Hashim? You might be asking, and our viewers might be wondering. This is because this university will play host to a very important service on a Sunday from the time that the day breaks, and from 7 a.m. where guests are supposed to be seated inside here, where we'll have the day of internment. The service here will have dignitaries arriving all through the morning, and then we'll have the president arriving here. President William Ruto will arrive here on a Sunday at 9 a.m. We'll have the body arriving at 9:10 a.m. and then we'll have a service led by the Anglican Church at 9:30 p.m. and we'll also have tributes going on from 12:30 to 2. And then we have the deputy president inviting the president again at 2:30, and then we'll have the presidential address thereafter, and then the body will leave for Kango Kajaramogi on my right. And so the important thing about this also is that the people around here are waiting to see what happens, and the activities we are seeing here is a bit slow, and I'm sure, and as we will show you later, and as you've seen from the other links, businesses will come to a slow pace and grind to a halt as people try to pay their respects to their fallen hero. I think I need to bring in one or two people to speak to us and tell us about what they feel about this mood, what is their thinking, and what are they looking towards this event as we move with it. Welcome, this is KBC Channel 1, you are live. Tell us your name and if you do you study in this university and what this means to you?
Yes, my name is Fairban Odhiambo, a student here at Jaramogi, and the news of Raila passing away really saddens us as the students, and we are looking forward for the remains which will arrive tomorrow.
Yesterday we were driving through the town and we saw some students walking a vigil, carrying twigs. Were you part of that? And what does that mean?
I was part of that group. That was just a celebration for the achievements Mzee brought into the politics and the country. Yeah.
And as students, how are you arranging yourselves to receive the late Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga?
Yeah, the arrangement is there as the just and Jew students, we will receive Raila on tomorrow. We will converge there at Jaramogi Oginga Park. Then the Msafara heading to Kopolo, Opoda Farm. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that sentiment. And you, sir, what is your name and what brings you here and how is the mood? How are you feeling?
Okay, my name is Nyayo Stadium. I'm studying in Tuesday year 2. The busing of our former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is very painful to the community and to the entire country because that busing really motivates the nation and even the Jewish students. We are really so very saddened and we are waiting for the body of the former Prime Minister. We can bury him with peace. Yeah.
What is your message to fellow Kenyans and fellow students? Maybe there are some students who really didn't know him very well. What is the message you can tell them and to inspire the other generation that are even coming after you?
Okay, my message to the entire generation, not to the entire youth of this country, I can advise the footstep of the former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for speaking to us. Mzee, unaweza tuongelesha ama namna gani? Utuambie labda maoni yako ya vitu unaona hapa na rambirambi zako.
Asante sana. Kwa majina naitwa Nicholas Sodek. Mimi ni mkazi wa Bondo. Na tunaumwa na tumepoteza kiongozi. Mimi muita Mr. President. 5-time winner, hakuwahi jali ati alikuwa anatetea maslahi ya Wakenya. Sasa nangoja tu baba akuje tumpigie kwaheri.
Asante sana kwa kutuongelesha. Ndio, yes, Hashim, yes, that is those are some of the sentiments from students and residents of this area. As you can see, the mood is despondent, but we continue to gather information. You know, some people are receiving this as a celebration of a life well lived here in Bondo and Siaya County at large. Indeed, as we heard as well, the students here are very passionate about the late former Prime Minister, and they were having a vigil and moving about, as you've heard, and they are organizing themselves to receive the body of the late former Prime Minister as they await the body to arrive here. Otherwise, we will continue gathering information for our viewers and just going through a spot check process, going through the markets and the energetic town here in Bondo. Back to you, Hashim.
On Alan Aoko. Alan, maybe before I let you go, give us at least a little bit of what will be happening at Opoda Farm, given that the senator, that is Oburu Oginga rather, made at least an impromptu visit there to, of course, prepare for the burial site. So do you have the itinerary from that particular end? Okay, Alan, it seems we have lost our very own Alan, but he's keeping tabs on that particular area, especially on Bondo, given that it will be the climax to this particular state funeral that has been planned for the former Premier Raila Odinga. He'll be informing us also Wycliffe Okech, who has been there since for the better part of Wednesday till today. We'll be getting those links and from our various other reporters who have been stationed in various parts of the country. And also, we want to take you back to Nyayo Stadium. A little bit earlier on, you saw at least the dance were filling up with the supporters and mourners of the former Premier Raila Odinga, given that the event is expected to start at exactly 9 a.m., the state funeral service, and we are going to ensure that we give you that particular update. Now, we do have Kasichana Masha. Kasichana, good morning. If you can hear me, give us a feel of where you are right now.
Wa taifa hili Raila Amolo Odinga. Ni kwamba hayati Raila Amolo Odinga aliweza kuhudumu katika eneo ambalo tumekita kambi siku ya leo, ambapo alihudumu kama mbunge wa eneo hili katika tangu mwaka 1992 hadi mwaka wa 2013. Hello.
Yesterday was at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and followed the 4-hour proceedings there. We want to link up with Kasichana Masha to give us a feel of what is happening at the Nyayo Stadium, given that we can see people are trickling in slowly, especially outside. We can see a video clips of outside of how Nyayo Stadium is looking, and especially security apparatus have mounted to ensure that things goes smoothly to avoid what happened yesterday at the Kasarani Stadium. What you're seeing on your screen is the dais where the officials are currently situated. A number of them have already arrived, of course, to receive President William Ruto. We do know the former head of state, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, as well as the family of Odinga, led by the senator of Siaya, who is currently who has been appointed as the acting party leader of ODM, will be there, and a host of governors, government officials, including those ones who traveled to India to ensure that the body of the former premier is repatriated back to our country. Also, officials from outside the country, which was confirmed yesterday by the country's second in command, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki, who clearly stated, given that the man was revered not only in East Africa, the African continent, but the world at large, will be seeing dignitaries from across the world coming here, at least to also have their say and their piece to the former premier. The itinerary is already out, as and when the guests are seated at the Nyayo Stadium, the musical honors and tributes will start flooding and reverberating through Nyayo Stadium, and of course arrival of diplomatic corps, chairpersons of constitutional commissions, principal secretary, judges, members of the National Assembly, senators, county governors, the cabinet, judges of the Supreme Court, chief justice, speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly, and of course His Excellency the Deputy President of this country, who will welcome the first family to that particular stadium, being led by the Commander-in-Chief, President William Ruto, as well as the arrival of various heads of state. We'll tell you as they are continuing to trickle in who will be arriving. If you're seeing similarities to this particular service that will be happening at the Nyayo Stadium, this state funerals are accorded to former heads of state. You saw what happened with the late Moi, you saw what happened with the late Kibaki. Raila Amolo Odinga becomes the first person in this country to be accorded a state funeral despite not serving as the head of state. He attempted 5 times, but we have seen his contribution in those particular governments since Moi era to President William Ruto, who they recently signed on January a 10-pact agenda at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, especially following what was witnessed last year when it came to the Gen Z demonstration. You can see the military brigade as yesterday, and even today they're preparing, of course, to man that particular body, the Kenya Army, the Navy, as well as the Air Force, to ensure that the body is not only protected but accorded a salute as well as a guard of honor. You see that particular tent where the KDF are currently are. That is where the body will be placed. You do remember similarities with Moi and Kibaki during their state funeral. That is where the body was placed. Even the men of cloth will be there to give their sermons as well as their speeches. After that, the family will eulogize the man, Raila Amolo Odinga, who many have called now a myth and a legend in their various aspects. Also, we do anticipate speeches to be made by not only President William Ruto, the Deputy President, but a host of dignitaries. What you're seeing on your screen is a conglomeration of mourners who are still joyful, celebrating the man, Raila Amolo Odinga. You can see the dais there. You have a 360-degree view. But we do know that the crowd is still trying to get into Nyayo Stadium. Security apparatus at least have been mounted in various parts of that particular stadium to ensure a smooth entry and exit to that particular stadium to avoid what was witnessed yesterday at the Kasarani Stadium. There you have it. That will be the guard of honor that has been mounted by the Kenya Defence Forces, where we do anticipate the body of the late Raila Amolo Odinga to be passing through first and then being set up under that particular tent you're currently seeing. There are the supporters and the mourners who are still celebrating the man, carrying those leaves. And if you did not join us a while ago, it has been explained to us the significance of carrying that particular leaf, especially for a man of his stature, that is Raila Amolo Odinga. That is the main dais, and we'll be trying to get a hold of Kasichana Masha and John Jacob Kuria, who are currently at the Nyayo Stadium. As we maintain that particular picture of Nyayo Stadium, earlier on, Kevin, you were talking about the role Raila Amolo Odinga had played, especially when it comes to infrastructural matter, and you do know that he had even a role within the African Union to carry out those particular duties.
Precisely, the head of infrastructure at the AU, and really, these are very profound stories that should not just be told, but really be written and entrenched in our society, so that the upcoming generation can also be able to know about Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga. See, the kind of generation that we are talking about today is one that, if we are not very careful, then they'll be able to lose a big space in terms of the history and the democratic development of our country. If you talk about the late President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, our founding father, Mheshimiwa Jomo Kenyatta, you talk about Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki, and they've really entrenched very important, spaces in terms of reforms and even transformational indicators of our governance, leadership, and democracy. So it is important that even as we talk about the political side of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, his softer side has to be brought out. And I remember in one of his books when he narrates about how he used to write letters to Minpin Mama Ida on tissue paper, and that he relied on one very trusted prison officer to be the one to be sending these letters, during his detention. These are soft spots of a gentleman that people thought was a very hard nut to crush. Probably someone that would not be defeated by anything. And as our incoming senator of Siaya says, Oscar, he still cannot believe that Raila Amolo Odinga is dead, and he's talking about the fear. So there is an angle and a way in which people look at Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, and that is the enigmatic side of it. But the softer sides of Jacom must also be brought out. His love for family. I remember many times when he has been there to stand for his family at the burial, the death of Fidel. You could see how he was very beaten. Yes. But he still rose up and he said, this is just, a drop in the kind of society that we live in, and we have to pick it up and move on. You look at the wedding ceremony, the traditional marriage of Raila Jr., how strong he was, and people said so many things about the wife or Kikuyu, all these things. It doesn't matter. So it shows you the softer side of a man that people probably thought would not be beaten by anything, but still coming out, standing so strong. And I believe that even as we cement his political life, it is important that the softer aspects of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga are also brought, to the fore. His love for young people, and I closely interacted with him both at the Prime Minister in 2000, when he became Prime Minister 2009 all the way to 2012. And for the first time, working for a premier youth organization in this country, we organized the Prime Minister's Roundtable with the youth. And many things, Hashim, that came up out of that particular process, including the National Youth Council, that did its elections in 2011. And many years down the line, up to now, the government of Kenya is still struggling in terms of how to ensure that young people organize themselves and have an election for the youth called the National Youth Council. During that time, Mheshimiwa Otuma was a cabinet minister for youth, and I remember how always Mheshimiwa Raila kept asking, "Mmefika wapi na waziri?" Because he really wanted a space for the youth. He wanted a space where young people can be able to, make their voices count and also be seen to be part and parcel of the democratic development of the country. I remember during that time we had the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, a fund that has metamorphosized into very many things. Today we are talking about a Biashara Fund, we are talking about a Hustler Fund. The other day, I think it's last week, we saw the launch of the Nyota Fund, the Nyota program for the youth. And these are things that if they're not properly, taken back and traced over to Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, they might probably be, be lost. And so this kind of fanatical support that the youth have for Mheshimiwa Raila is not just political. It is also in his ability to really be present when things are not working for the young people. And he would be out there walking on the streets and he just stops, and he begins to speak to the youth. And within a very short time, you have a huge crowd of people. I don't remember any time when we went to visit the former Prime Minister as a Prime Minister, and even at his office in the Jaramogi Foundation, Joff, in Upper Hill, when young people were kept waiting. Even when there were elderly people, men and women who had come in delegations to meet with him, and you'd see delegations from all over across the country. But he always said, vijana wakunye kwanza, because, he had this soft spot for the youth, listening to them. And beyond that, you would begin, sharing very many stories. If you mentioned sports to Mheshimiwa Raila, he would tell you many things that probably even as young people you'd not be able to tell. If you mentioned agriculture, he would give you everything, including when the first fertilizer, was tested in Kenya, which seed for what crop was tested wherever. So Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga is a gentleman that I think is, I believe, is extremely intelligent, and the wealth of his knowledge has to be documented.
Okay. Now let's go back to that particular stadium. I want to introduce my colleague, that is Nancy Okware. Nancy, good morning. If you can hear me, give us a feel of where you are now.
Na mtazamaji, hujambo popote.
Apologize for that. We're trying to get a hold of our very own Nancy Okware, who's there at the Nyayo Stadium. Those are the views, the aerial views. That particular blue tent you're seeing there, that is where the body will be laid for the guard of honor, especially once it arrives at the Nyayo Stadium. You do know that this is a state funeral, so it means the Kenya Defence Forces will be bringing that particular body in that particular hearse that we're carrying yesterday with from JKIA all the way to Kasarani. Now let's head over back to my colleague Nancy. Nancy, good morning. Give us a feel of where you are.
Na mtazamaji, hujambo popote pale ulipo, na karibu sana kwenye matangazo haya ya moja kwa moja kutoka katika uwanja wa Nyayo hapa katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Mtazamaji, ni siku ambapo ibada ya wafu kwa aliyekuwa Waziri Mkuu Raila Odinga itakuwa inafanyika hapa katika uwanja huu, na kama tunavyoshuhudia kwenye runinga ni kwamba shughuli tu za maandalizi bado zinaendelea hapa. Watumbuizaji bado wanazidi kujiandaa, na vile wananchi ambao walianza kumiminika katika uwanja huu kuanzia mwendo wa asubuhi kabisa wamekuwa tu wakisubiri kwa hamu na gamu kwa hafla hii yenyewe kung'oa nanga. Mtazamaji, ni hafla ambayo itakuwa inang'oa nanga kulingana na ratiba takriban mwendo wa saa 3, na ikizingatiwa kwamba ni hafla ambayo itakuwa ya kitaifa. Hivyo basi kulingana na kamati ya andalizi hapo jana ikiongozwa naye naibu wa rais Profesa Kithure Kindiki, ni kwamba hafla hii itachukua kipindi cha takriban saa 2, na hivyo basi tunasubiri tu kuona wakati ambapo mwili utakuwa unawasili hapa, wakati ambapo viongozi mbalimbali watakuwa na wasili wakiongozwa naye Rais William Ruto. Shughuli yenyewe inatarajiwa kuanza na kuendelea hadi mwendo wa saa 6 mchana, na basi hafla yenyewe itakapokamilika, basi kulingana na ratiba ni kwamba kutakuwa na shughuli nyingine ya kutazama mwili wake hayati Raila Odinga hapa katika uwanja huu, manake kuna wananchi ambao hawakupata ile fursa ya kutazama hapo jana, na hivyo basi leo hii watakuwa wanapata ile fursa. Mtazamaji, tutakumbuka ya kwamba baada yake Raila Odinga kuaga dunia siku ya Jumatano, basi shughuli zimekuwa tu ni nyingi, manake ni mazishi ambayo yatakuwa yanafanyika siku ya Jumapili. Hivyo basi muda ni mfupi na mambo ambayo yalikuwa yanastahili kufanyika ni mengi, na basi kulingana na ratiba, baada yake Raila Odinga kuwasili, mwili wake kuwasili humu nchini siku ya hapo jana, shughuli zilikuwa ni nyingi, manake kulikuwa na mabadiliko mengi ambayo yalifanyika. Kulikuwa kuwe na ile shughuli ya kutazama mwili wake katika bunge la kitaifa, ikizingatiwa kwamba Rais William Ruto alitoa tangazo ya kwamba ikizingatiwa hadhi yake Raila Odinga katika taifa hili na mchango wake katika taifa hili, basi atakuwa anafanyiwa ile shughuli ya mazishi ya kitaifa ambayo huwa tu yanafanywa wachache, wakiwemo viongozi wa taifa na vile ambao walikuwa ni viongozi wa taifa. Na hivyo basi Rais William Ruto tu alitangaza kwamba Raila Odinga atakuwa anafanyiwa ile shughuli ya kumwenzi na kumkumbuka kama kiongozi ambaye alileta mabadiliko mengi katika taifa hili. Hivyo basi baada ya mwili wake kuwasili humu nchini hapo jana, tulishuhudia mabadiliko ambayo nilikuwa nimeyazungumzia, ya kwamba mwili wenyewe ulikuwa utazamwe katika uwanja katika bunge la kitaifa, lakini kukawa na idadi kubwa ya watu ambao walikuwa wamejitokeza pale hapo jana, kuanzia mwendo wa asubuhi, na vile ule msongamano uliokuwa katika uwanja wa ndege wa kimataifa wa Jomo Kenyatta. Hivyo basi ikabidi kuwe na mabadiliko ambayo yalifanya shughuli yenyewe ya kutazama mwili huo kubadilishwa na kupelekwa katika uwanja wa Kasarani. Na basi tukashuhudia tu kulikuwa na vurumai mwendo wa majira yale ambao mwili ulifika pale, lakini hatimaye zikiwa zimesalia dakika chache kabla ya saa 12 jioni, wananchi wakapata fursa ya kutazama mwili wakiongozwa naye Rais William Ruto na vile Mama Aida Odinga na familia yake Raila Odinga. Na hivyo basi ni kumaanisha shughuli yenyewe watu wengi hawakupata ile fursa waliokuwa wanatarajia, na hivyo basi hapa leo katika uga wa Nyayo watakuwa wanapata ile fursa baada ya shughuli yenyewe kukamilika. Vile mambo yamekuwa yanaendelea katika nyumbani kwake Raila Odinga, ambako atakuwa anazikwa siku ya Jumapili. Hapo jana tulishuhudia Oburu Odinga akielekea pale, ambaye ni nduguye marehemu Raila Odinga, akielekea pale nyumbani na kutambua mahali ambapo Raila Odinga atakuwa anazikwa. Na hivyo basi shughuli yenyewe ya maandalizi ya yale mazishi ikangwananga. Tulishuhudia hadi mwendo wa usiku kabisa bado shughuli ya kuchimba kaburi lake, ambapo itakuwa ni sehemu yake ya mwisho ya mapumziko itakuwa inafanyika. Na kama tunavyoona ni kwamba usalama umeimarika hapa katika uwanja huu wa Nyayo. Vikosi mbalimbali wakiongozwa na wale maafisa wa GSU na vile kunao maafisa wa KDF ambao wako hapa ili kuhakikisha kila kitu kiko shwari. Tumewaona pia wale maafisa wa NYS wako hapa, manake mara nyingi huwa wanatumika katika shughuli kama hizi ili kuhakikisha tu wanawasaidia wananchi kujua mahali ambapo wataketi na kuhakikisha tu hawataelekea katika maeneo ambayo hawafai kuwa wakiingia. Hivyo basi maandalizi tu yanazidi kuendelea hapa katika uwanja huu wa Nyayo. Bado idadi ya watu ambao wamefika kufikia sasa si nyingi, lakini tunatarajia kwamba kadri muda unavyozidi kusonga, basi muda utakuwa watu zaidi watakuwa wamefika hapa na kuongezeka katika uwanja huu. Na mtazamaji, sasa ningependa kupisha mwenzangu John Jacob Kioria ambaye yuko katika upande wa pili wa uwanja huu wa Nyayo.
Tunajua nyinyi ni protocol officers. Toka mahali hapo.
Continue to mourn the
We continue to mourn the death of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. At the Nyayo Stadium, mourners continue to gather to mourn a man who left a legacy in the lives of Kenyans and indeed in our democratic history. The man Raila Amolo Odinga. At the Nyayo Stadium, mourners continue to stream in, of course, as we prepare to bid goodbye. This is the national celebration, the national funeral of the Honorable Raila Odinga. And this is where thousands of Kenyans will be gathering to bid goodbye to Mzee. I'll be talking to a few Kenyans, obviously, to get their feeling really about what they feel about Mzee. You can come very quickly. We talk to you, of course, and we shall be moving around as we talk to Kenyans. Unaweza anza na kutuambia majina yako na vile umeamka asubuhi na unamkumbuka Mzee vipi?
Kwa majina ni Jacob Jinda. Actually, haijakuwa matarajio yetu kwamba baba anaweza kutuacha. This is so painful for us, as for our nation, even for me individually, because I knew him personally. But all we're doing is to pray for him, wherever his soul is, make him rest, and also guide also Kenyans who are also left behind to make sure that they continue the peace or the message that Baba left behind us. For those who are actually going to take over from where Baba left, we request you that the principles that he tried to cultivate in us, let's make sure that those principles are followed, and to make sure that we ensure that our politicians do not take charge or do not take advantage of the fact that now Mr. Raila is gone. We really ask our people or our leaders to ensure that even the laws that Baba left or the interests that he tried to champion, to ensure that those interests are kept alive. For today, I know today is going to be a painful day for us. We just request all Kenyans to remain vigilant and also to remain peaceful as we send Baba. Let's try to ensure that all is gone peacefully, because that's what Baba tried to cultivate in us. The principles of peace. Peace is what we need today. Whatever happened, like yesterday, what happened at KBC Stadium, that was not called for. It was not what Baba actually asked for. But let's try to make sure that peace regains and peace is ensured in our country. Yes.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. We continue to engage Kenyans from different walks of life, and this is how Baba is being celebrated. By the way, there's what you call small rains, rasha. But tunaendelea kuzungumza na wale waliomuunga mkono Baba. Unaweza tuambia jina lako na jinsi unavyosikia kuhusu kifo cha Baba?
Kwa majina naitwa Joseph Stuma. Tuko na huzuni kubwa sana kwa kupoteza Baba. Hatukutarajia kama mambo inaweza tokelezea kama hiyo, na sisi tukiwa kama wana ODM ametuacha uji, ametuacha bila mtu yote. Hakuna mtu ametuacha angasema huyu ndiye ameshikilia chama. Na ningeomba wana ODM wakae pamoja. Kuna vijana wawili, kuna Sifuna, kuna Babu Owino. Hao vijana ndio tunatarajia wanaweza kutuongoza katika chama yetu. Yeah.
Asante sana Mzee. Hao ni baadhi ya maoni tu jinsi wanavyofikiria kwamba Mzee Raila Amolo Odinga anaweza kurithiwa kisiasa na wale vijana ambao wamewacha ndani ya chama cha ODM. Nizungumze na mama mmoja hapa tafadhali. Unaweza tuambia jina lako na jinsi ambavyo unamkumbuka Mzee Raila?
Mimi naitwa Winfred Kendi. Nakumbuka Mzee Raila alikuwa anatupigania sisi kama Wakenya. Sasa tunalia kuwa tumewachwa kama majatima, kwa kuwa yeye alikuwa mtetezi. Hata kitu ikitokea anasimama anatutetea. Sasa hatujui tunaelekea wapi, hatujui tuongee nini. Sasa tunalia, hatujui tunaelekea wapi. Sasa tunahuzunika ya kwamba Mzee ametusaidia kwa mara nyingi, hata vita manyumba alitushukishia bei, mpaka sasa hatujui mambo itakuwaje.
Umetoka pande gani ya Kenya?
Mimi nimetoka upande wa Isli.
Sasa ni mkazi wa Isli, akituelezea tu baadhi ya maoni yake kuhusu kifo cha Mzee Raila Odinga. Na kuna watu baadhi ambao wameshafika. Tuzungumze na mama mwingine hapa ambaye ana firimbi. Unaweza kusimama? Simama tu. Simama tafadhali. Haya, kuja. Njoo utuambie umetoka eneo gani la Kenya?
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Anne Motuko, nimetoka sehemu za Embu County, lakini makao yangu ni hapa Nairobi, Kamukunji, Isili South.
Haya, Kumbuka mzee Raila Amolo.
Mimi nakumbuka mzee Raila Amolo Odinga. Kwanza nakumbuka 1992 nasikianga mamangu akiniambia hiyo ndio wakati alikuwa na mimba yangu. Wakati mambo ilikuja bado alinipata kama angali sijafikia, lakini hiyo yote mamangu ashasahau. Na mimi pia nakumbuka Raila Amolo Odinga na ile mambo yake alikuwa anatufaitia. Tuliona wakati alisupport Moi Kibaki akasema Kibaki tosha. Hiyo ndio ule wakati nilikuwa naenda darasa la 8. Tuliweza kusoma masomo ya bure, tukapeangwa vitabu za bure. Hapo ndio tulipata jukumu ya kujua sana Raila Amolo Odinga ndio nani. Na tunajifunia huyu mzee alikuwa mtu wa kujitolea. Hakuwa anataka aone nchi yake kama inaenda kando. Na hata pia amekuja kukufa akitaka watoto wetu wasome masomo ya bure mpaka university. Mimi naweza sema roho yake iwekwe mahali mpema peponi, mahali alijitafutia. Na pia serikali yetu William Samoei Ruto tunakutambua, na mimi nikiwa hapa naweza sema tutam tushaona kazi mingi umetutolea nini. Rest in peace mzee.
Asante, rest in peace baba Raila Amolo Odinga. Nataka nikugeuzie mpige picha wangu. For example, we continue to make, try and make movement around here. See who we can talk to really regarding what they feel largely about the death of Mzee Raila Amolo Odinga. I want my camera person to turn towards the field to show you the security formation around the stadium. Obviously, you know the chaos that rocked the arrival and the reception of the body of the Honorable Raila Odinga. But now you can see it's a blend of security officers. There is NYS, there's GSU, there's the Kenya Defense Forces, there's Kenya Prisons, all of them forming a ring around the stadium to ensure then that there's no breach of security or breach of protocol like we witnessed yesterday during the reception of the body of the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the enigma, the man who is being celebrated as the pioneer of Kenya's multi-party democracy, the new Kenya that was birthed after 1992, as you've heard that lady from Embu speak about. Looking at the crowd, you can see the white handkerchiefs that are being waved, very symbolic of peace, but most importantly, a Kenya that is mourning the death of the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And his supporters and Kenyans who have come here and turned up very early in the morning to mourn Mzee are here in their numbers. The stadium is not yet just full, but you can see the numbers that continue streaming in, promising obviously to fill to the brim and to the capacity once we are close to beginning the ceremony. From around 9, we expect that the program will kick off, and that then will mean the commencement of the national celebration, the national funeral service of the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And by the way, there's been a crowd that has been doing rounds this entire stadium, I think for the last 30 minutes. And it's just a continuation of a celebration that we saw yesterday of his supporters being so passionate about the man they loved, the man they supported for so many years, the man they loved to call Baba, the man they loved to call Wodalego. You can tell the kind of sorrow they have, but indeed also today is a celebration of a life well lived. 80 years old, and the man continues to live an impacting legacy. That is the life of Raila Amolo Odinga. We shall be moving to another location, but for now I want to hand you back to the normal programming that is inside the Nyayo Stadium. You can hear the protocol officers trying to guide the crowd on how this will be. It looks like it will be a small of a wet day a bit, but then again we hope the weather will improve later. But there are light showers at the Nyayo Stadium, so you'll allow us to take cover for the sake of equipment, but then you can continue listening in to what is going on at Nyayo Stadium.
Thank you very much, John Jacob Kiria, for that status report on what is happening at Nyayo Stadium. You can tell even from the pictures that it is quite electric, with Kenyans who have braved the early morning hours and the light showers that are already experienced at the Nyayo Stadium, making their way to just honor a man who, to most, has been Baba, literally, from a family perspective as well as a political perspective, with just hearing from Kenyans, some who have gone back to even when before they were born. There's a lady there who is from Embu but currently resides in Nairobi, saying that she had the stories of Raila Amolo Odinga from her mom, who was expected during the the coup that happened, and even now she follows Raila simply because of what the mother, who is senile now and cannot remember much, has told her about Raila and his history. Earlier, we also heard from an ODM party member there who said that he feels naked now that Raila Amolo Odinga is no more. In studio, we're joined by various gentlemen. Actually, it's a pool of gentlemen here, and they're going to be weighing in on how they remember, or they have chosen to remember, Raila Amolo Odinga. From the crowds in Nyayo Stadium to the studio. Let's start off with you, Reverend Alphonse there. From a personal perspective, how do you choose to remember Raila?
One, I choose to remember him, as I said in the beginning, I remember him as a man that was denied the crown by the structures. He was denied the crown by the structures, but loved by the people and respected by the people, honored by the people. Personally, what I remember vividly... Yes,
personally. We want to hear from your own personal experience.
What I remember is 2007, when I escorted Bishop Desmond Tutu to Orange House. He had come so that he can see what to do. I stood with Bishop Tutu in Orange House, and then I stood behind him, Raila. I looked at the gentleman and we asked him, can you do something so that we can have peace and move on? Can you accept and then see what we can do? He said, I have no problem. Go and talk to Kibaki.
I remember that time. That's when we had crowds across the country actually chanting, we want Raila.
He said, they were saying, no Raila, no peace.
No Raila, no peace.
And that time there were many people outside Orange House, and we walked out within the security channel, and then we got in the cars, and people were so many, they were telling us, please go and tell Kibaki, no Raila, no peace. No Raila, no peace. But when I looked at Raila, he moved his handkerchief, wiped his eyes again, and then looked at us and said, you people, go and tell Kibaki he has the answer. And then we moved out. We had just finished up with Kibaki, that's why we went to him. And then I remember him vividly. And he was not in that situation as if he was arrogant. He did not refuse to see us. He did not shout to us. Humble, with a lot of humility, with a lot of conviction on what he believed in. Finally, we got a prime minister, and what happened? History is there. That they did development of the country, and we can see the outcome of the grand coalition. All
right. Well, that was your experience, 2007. It was quite a tense moment for the country, and it goes down in history as a deciding moment, you know, when Raila just showed who he is beyond, you know, what he wanted himself as a presidential candidate, and now he proved that he put the public, you know,
he was focused.
He was focused. Now let's hear from the youth perspective. Joining us is Philip Obare, Raila's youth inclusion advisor. What was your experience? How do you remember Baba?
Thank you very much. So once again, I want to express my deepest condolences to the family of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, to Mama Ida, to the family, and to the nation at large, young people here in Kenya, and those that we've worked with on the Raila agenda across Africa. I say this from a perspective of somebody that has interacted closely with the former Prime Minister. In the last elections, I had an opportunity to run the Azimio youth campaigns as the national team lead, and I was the only non-elected surrogate among the 14 surrogates of the former Prime Minister, charged with carrying his message within the Azimio manifesto to wherever he wanted that message sent. Besides that, earlier this year, I mean from November, and as he got into the AUC campaigns, when his manifesto was done, it was an 8-pointer manifesto. And I realized that there was one aspect that was missing, which was the youth agenda, which is quite a discussion in the continental space. So when I approached him, he immediately adjusted the manifesto to include now 9 issues. And the 9th issue was the empowerment and youth inclusion issues across the continent. And we walked through that journey with him, bringing together about 140 volunteers from 55 nations, including those that were not voting at the AUC. And that's how passionate young people were around him. So even today, we have a lot of condolence messages coming from across the African Youth Forum that then supports this.
Now, Philip,
but during campaigns,
from that particular rundown of what you have shared, do you term Raila as someone who is accommodative, you know, in terms of listening and actually applying to what he's heard from the people around him?
Very. The last example that I've just given you tells you how flexible he was. He had an 8-point agenda for the AUC chair. I talked about the youth agenda with him, and he immediately included that in his issues, and so he had 9. So that is how flexible the former Prime Minister was. But something that was really personal to me during the campaigns was in the campaign platform, it's always a fight. You know, you'd get a seat labeled your name, but somebody would come before you and remove the tag and, you know, just sit on it. And so he realized that the people that were suffering most were the young people, we who did not really have titles on the platform and so forth. So he would not sit until he saw that, for example, Senator Hezena had sat down, and myself and the likes of Babu. You could not get the microphone, but they needed you to say something about the youth. So he realized that if he left this to his people to run, we would always miss out. So he made a decree that he would not speak unless the young people have spoken. And even when time was compressed and he was the only speaker on the podium, he would speak and say, but I have 2 more people. And that would either be Babu speaking, or myself, or Mubadi, who is the chair, Boda Boda, or Senator Zena. So there was this one time we went to Muranga for campaigns, and we had done the first series of the stopovers by the road. And so we retreated for a small session at one of his friend's place. I guess you could know who that friend is. So there were about 3 choppers, and they had taken what would call the VVIPs. And so we were left, Honorable Babu was left, and we were stranded. And it was about, I think, around 45 minutes drive to the next stopover. So we thought that we'd miss that. So what we're going to do is to drive to the second stopover after that. When the former Prime Minister had gotten to the podium and realized that there were no young people on the podium that were supposed to carry the Azimio la Vijana, he sent one of the choppers to come back purposely to pick Honorable Babu and myself. And that to me was very humbling. That was who the former Prime Minister was. Very personal, very dedicated. And accommodating. And accommodative. Now that Baba is no more, and I know Oscar has taken issue with a section of the media referring to as Mwenda Zake, Hayati, and you're saying we shouldn't say that. We should just refer to him as
Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
We shouldn't say Mwenda Zake.
Not Mwenda Zake, not Hayati, just call him Right Honorable Raila Odinga. That is enough for now.
All right, for now. But then he is no more. Do you feel exposed? Do you feel as if the youth agenda, will be implemented in the absence of Raila Amolo Odinga? From your perspective, Philip?
Well, you see, we've had a real setback in the youth inclusion agenda. When the former Prime Minister in 2021, I think late, met a team of young people from Mount Kenya at the University of Nairobi at the Taifa Hall, one of the things he mentioned as his promise to the young people was that he was going to provide 4 cabinet slots for the young people in his government. And I think that would have been historic. And I can tell you for sure that when that provisional cabinet list was there, we know, for example, that there were names of young people on it. When he had a provisional list of PSS to consider, we know the number of young people that were on that list. So Raila Amolo Odinga was dedicated, and I think you should look at even the infrastructure that is used in his political journey. When ODM was a vibrant party in the formative days, the Secretary General, after my governor, Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, was then Ababu Namwamba. And Ababu Namwamba became the youngest minister in the coalition government, courtesy of Raila Amolo Odinga. After that, you've seen Sifuna, from a very young age, not having any political experience or political background, being handheld to the place where he's become senator for Nairobi, courtesy of Raila Amolo Odinga. You can see the likes of Babu Owino coming through the ranks, and he has the platform because of Raila Amolo Odinga. Look at the nominations that we have in the Senate. For example, Senator Zena, who is my good friend, nominated by the former Prime Minister. I feel that there is no one person that has handheld young people in this country than Raila Amolo Odinga. And you could talk about politics in this country. Anybody that has a name has gotten that through Raila Amolo Odinga, and walking that journey with him.
So, Wendy, what do you have to say in regard to that? The youth agenda under Raila.
Yeah, I'm just realizing that my two colleagues are talking about the personal touch, one-on-one touch with Raila Odinga. One thing before I said my personal touch with Raila Odinga, I wanted to talk to something that was talked to with by my colleague Tom, who is with Hash in the other station. And I realized that Raila Odinga is a man who lived ahead of his times. And when I was trying to read on who this man was, a man who has lived ahead of his times, and what does this mean, what I've read here? Somebody who had ideas, opinions, or a way of life that was considered too advanced or modern for their era and was often not understood or appreciated by their contemporary. I think Raila Odinga was not understood and appreciated by his contemporaries because he lived ahead of his times. You get me right? The new constitution that we're talking about, when Kenyans were still not ready to even think about the new constitution. Whatever Tom is talking about, the technological know-how that he was trying to bring, because he had lived in Germany, he had lived in Norway, he had seen systems work. He wanted those systems to work here. If you see about the devolution that we're still struggling with today, the devolution document that was documented between Raila Odinga and Professor Odhiambo is not the document. We are struggling to implement devolution because people who are implementing devolution, people who are implementing the new constitution actually oppose it. There are people who really didn't want change for this country. The only unfortunate thing that even today, people who are seated there, I remember when Julius Malema was utilizing Mama Winnie Mandela. He was saying, Mama Winnie, give us a sign. Some of the people who are seated here, claiming to mourn you, are the same people who made your life so difficult, are the same people who are resistant to change even today. We must make sure that to honor Raila Odinga, we must implement the new constitution. Raila Odinga was the father of handshakes. He was the father of conclaves. He was the father of negotiations. He was the father of grand coalitions. He was the father of common ground, that let us get unity. And he was somebody who wanted to include. Personal relationship with Raila Odinga. 2017, I worked for ODM party. I'm just coming from my studies in Europe. What do I do for the country? I want to work for a party that is going to take over power. Then I work for that party. Then we have a disagreement within ODM party that recruitment of members, some of our people who are there thought that we need to go digital and put everything on a digital space so that everybody who wants to be a member of ODM gets to a digital space. I was communist against this. I'm thinking about my grandmother and my mother back at home, that she will not be, by that time, not many people had smartphones. So by that time, we still have this kabambe phone. So I insist, no, let us just maintain our traditional means of those cards and give cards and sell the cards to the people. And this small issue becomes a big issue in the party and I'm now new in the system. And what goes to Raila Odinga, that it is me who is resisting the new system. There were two things that we were trying to implement. That card registration, and we were trying to put something called adopter station. That how do you want us to do the adopter station? Because we had copied it from Ghana after Ghana opposition leader had won an election through the adopter station thing. Okay. So we are supporting the adopter station and we are registering new members. And now the old members who are strong there has a position, and myself, the new guy, has a different position. Let's go traditional, let us not go digital. Yes. And this one gets to Raila Odinga's ears, and now there's a meeting, and the first thing happens in Raila Odinga's, you see those big vehicles parking, and I tell the AD that, I have to leave. I'm so worried about this thing that I'm worried about the boys, they might attack me because you don't touch on Raila. And then what Raila did, he came, and the first person he said hi to, he came to where I was sitting, my computer was working, I didn't want to look at him. And he said, hello, Oscar, and I said, okay, hi, how are you doing? What are you doing about the adopters? I explained to him everything we're doing in our computers and blah, blah, blah. And now there's a big meeting that goes on and doesn't end. And I have the anxiety that it's all going to happen after that meeting. Because I'm not in the meeting, but I'm being discussed in the meeting. Later he comes out and says that whatever this stuff that people Philip Petale and group wants, let it be. Whatever Oscar wants, let us use them too. So I realized that Raila is always compromising, wants to include everybody. The way he made a judgment over this one, I was shocked. But he really wanted, can everybody be included? If you give Raila Odinga 10 slots of cabinet positions, he wants to make sure that all Kenyans, the face of Kenya, he doesn't look at the constitution, because the constitution says that the face of Kenya must be there. Raila started implementing it even during the Grand Coalition. His lawyer, Paul Mwangi, he's from Central Kenya. He's whoever, he has always had a soft spot for Kenya. Even the other day, I'm sorry to mention this, when Ruto has a problem in government and wants Raila to come in, wants Uhuru to come in, wants to maintain Gachagua, he's struggling. And Gachagua says, my 8 people must be in cabinet. And also, Uhuru is talked to, then brings some other people in cabinet, I think 4 cabinet secretaries from his own backyard. Raila has 5 slots. What do I do with my 5 slots? I have to get Mbadi something, then CS Wandai, then we have Oparanya there from Western Kenya, then we have Joho from coastal Kenya. Then for the first time, even among the Turkanas, they don't even appoint women to it's a nomadic, the nomadic community is still, that's gender equality is still there. Then Raila appoints a cabinet secretary from Turkana. That means that he really thought Kenya.
He put the country first.
He put the country first. The only person I compare with Raila is Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. The only difference again between Mwalimu Julius Nyerere and Raila Odinga is that when Mwalimu Julius Nyerere sees he's not going to leave space, because Raila had already seen that he was going to leave space. The last speech, when he had it in Machakos, he said something that I loved so much, which gave me a lot of courage. He said that if you're a leader, you must be ready to be cheered and to be booed.
To be cheered and to be booed. Now, before we get to that political space, because I feel, Oscar, that's where you're taking us, I just want to weigh in on what you said in terms of Raila Amolo Odinga's achievements. We've spoken so much about politics, but little is known about what he has done when it comes to matters of socio-economic development. In 2004, Raila was named the Minister for Roads, and he embarked on construction of, key bypasses and major roads across the country. And also as Minister of Energy, the late Premier championed geothermal development. When we look at where Kenya is when it comes to matters of green energy or renewable energy, the first pioneers of this call and push is none other than Raila Odinga, especially at the oil carrier. So we also need to know that he did play a role when it comes to matters of socio-economic development. Looking at where we are right now, we are gravitating towards that, and also Kenya is also well on its way to nuclear energy. We are also looking at the role that he played, on the Lapsset corridor. based on and anchored on the Vision 2030. Whenever we talk about Raila, we look at him politically, but he also had, things that he did on the side to support socio-economic development of the country. Now, bringing it back to matters politics, and this is a question that has been posed by various players, is now in the absence of Raila Amolo Odinga, if we find ourselves in a catch-22 as we did in 2024, which way to go? Let's start off with a good reverend there.
Now, that brings us to, now that it has happened,
yes,
what lessons do we have? What do we do in case this happens? Number one, Raila has gotten where he is because he was fighting for one thing: building institutions. Raila was looking for institution. He wanted institution to be in place. All that Raila has gone through, he wanted institution to be blessed. The so-called I in the institution, independent IBC, independent Teacher Service Commission, independent police. What do we do? The lesson we learned is that Raila has taught us that he has been fighting for independent institution. Unless we get that in our mind clear, that we develop institutions, then we'll have lost what Raila was fighting for. Let's fight corruption. How? Through independent institution. Let's use the best brain we have. How? Through insisting on meritocracy, not mediocracy. Meritocracy, not mediocracy. Raila has fought for that. Elevate merit into its right place. That's what Raila has. As he says, look at that kind of brain he picked. He picked people with a brain to do specific functions.
Yes.
So if we get it there, we'll slide into there if we brush off what Raila fought for. Another thing that we learned from Raila, let's commit ourselves to implement the constitution. He has mentioned it. Raila has always been fighting for devolution. We denied Raila to merit presidency. But now that we ignite him to merit presidency, what do? Counties must be strong. Members of parliament must turn around and say that it is not about the presidency. Not all Kenyans can get into presidency level. But Kenyans can be comfortable in their counties if we insist on devolution. We ask our parliamentarians that we must come to a level where the seat of the presidency will not be the center of interest, whereby the center of interest will be the development down there, where the presidency will not be a small god to be worshipped. The presidency will just be another celebration kind of a thing. You see, something to be enjoyed, something to be there, but really, the real work should be done in the counties. So long as the younger MPs, the younger people, that will not come up and insist on counties, devolution implementation, will be damaged. What has Raila taught us? Raila has been fighting for this issue. Respect one another. Put our interests aside. Raila, if you follow him up, he did not have a serious scandal. We have not seen Raila in court that Raila has done 1, 2, 3. There was the issue of molasses, but surely, can you count on it and say, Raila, you have done this? And that's why you can see us following him and saying, people follow him and say, yes, Raila has done it, Raila has done it. Two things that must be there. I said again, let's fight corruption, let's use the best brain, and let's make sure, let's build institutions.
Let's build institutions. When you talked about the lack of scandals, or there being scandals that, we'd say that Raila was not essentially a saint.
Yes, but that's true. That's
he wasn't a saint.
He wasn't a saint.
Yes.
We cannot say that he was there. He did a lot of mistakes. But what were the principal issues that he fought for? Institutions. He has talked about independent. What do you see? Look at it.
Let the arms of government be independent. Let us focus on institutions and what they have to do. And above all, let devolution work. I want to take you to the question of, leadership, especially borrowing on issues of adherence to the Constitution. And also just a little bit digressing into that issue and look at the political scenario. When you talk about the spirit of the Constitution, it was meant to be inclusive, decentralized monies as well as leadership. But then we are seeing the absence of youth actively in matters of governance. Alfred, going for, Philip, going forward, what would you want to see, for us to actually realize this? Because it's about time. How do we go about it?
Well, I think we need to be intentional.
Yes.
In how
intentional.
Yes, how we deal with the youth agenda. It's not a question of when. In many of his speeches, Raila kept on saying that the youth issue is a time bomb, especially on unemployment and inclusion. So if you got opportunities here and there, he would fit in people. I would give you an example. Most recently, Kasmal Makoure has come into the space. He's been representing the party in Washington, D.C., in Brussels the other day. That is how Raila extends opportunity, and that is how intentional he was. He got recently the most opportunities in filling up cabinet slots. I mean, in filling up PS slots. Who do you see? Fikirini Jacobs, a young man, 29 years now, from the coast. He's only the second, I think, from his community in Kwale Mijikenda to become a PS. So we must be intentional so that if we make promises, we are not just being transactional in politics, but we are being, transformational in our engagement. So that when we say it's 10 opportunities for the young people, it's 10 opportunities for the young people. The other thing is our institutions must work. There is what we call the AGPO rule for economic empowerment for especially youth.
Let me just cut you short. What you're seeing on your screens is various government officials there. As you can see, that is CS in charge of mining. That is that is Joho there, Hassan Joho, who is among those who are attending this particular national service there, memorial service for the late Raila Amolo Odinga. We have a cruise there, and we're going to be hearing from them sometime soon in regard to what is happening. Just looking at what we're expecting there. We're expecting members of the diplomatic corps, chairpersons of constitutional commissions, principal secretaries, judges, members of the National Assembly, senators, county governors, cabinets, judges of the Supreme Court, as well as the Chief Justice, Speaker of the Senate, as well as the Speaker of the National Assembly, and as well as His Excellency Deputy President. And leading that particular service, state service, memorial service, is none other than His Excellency President William Ruto. We're expecting in the next 30 minutes that program is going to get underway. Here in studio, we're just unpacking and looking at what is the way forward now that the country has lost Raila Amolo Odinga. Before I hand over to the other side of the studio, let's hear from you, Oscar Omondi. Would want to know what is the way forward, especially for the ODM party?
One thing for the ODM party, I told you, Raila, I was almost finishing my statement then. I was heading there. What is for the ODM party? One, Raila was so compromising. Everybody in ODM party, all the leaders who were there who once been in ODM party, including Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, who were members of ODM party, and Mudavadi and everything. Even for Raila to lose, for example, to have a problem in 2013, for example, it was because...
Let me cut you short. As you can see, the president is already there, and those are the pictures. Actually, that was yesterday. These are some of... that is what you're seeing right now from the national Nyayo Stadium there. We're expecting the ceremony to start off any minute from now. That's around 9 a.m. We're going to give you a minute or two to just wind up. And sorry for interjecting there, Omondi, but we can see that is the President William Ruto just signing there the visitors book there. A day that we are all now going to have a mix of, the state as well as the church. We say here it's an intricate balance between the wants of the family, the wants of Raila Amolo Odinga, the wants of the state, as well as wants of the church. We're expecting dignitaries as well as visiting heads of state to also make their way to Nyayo Stadium. As you were saying, Omondi.
Yeah, I was saying that everybody in ODM and a lot of politicians in Kenya are mentored by Raila Odinga. But you realize that in ODM, Raila didn't appoint a heir because
there's no successor.
There's no successor. Why? Because he wanted everybody to fight for their own space. He could not come and say it is you or you or you. And that is why he left ODM. Because he believed in everybody. Do your thing, I will mentor you. Everybody is mentored. He's mentored William Topatli to become even the president of Kenya. He's helped everybody around, even Mudavadi and everybody, picked them from Kanu when Moi was not there, helped them to be. He could do that, but would not be able to come and say, and I've told you my story, he could not come and say that Oscar is right, or Italia is right, or so-and-so is right. He wanted to compromise and give everybody a chance. Now, for ODM, anybody who is there can pick the mantle and move with it. But the other thing that you asked, Reverend, that I already wanted to talk about, kidogo. I teach politics. In politics, I was taught what we call analysis. In analysis, you use what we call consequential things that have happened before. For you to even determine what will be the climate, you watch weather in 10 years' time, right? So whatever has happened, what has happened, for example, when this country gets the flip of almost getting out of it,
yes.
2007, you know what happened, the political violence. It needed the compromise of Raila Odinga. Yes. And he helped out to have a grand coalition, even when he knew it is him who has won the election. In 2013, he feels his elections has been stolen. One thing that Raila has taught us that we have to give it to him. Among our neighbors, elections disputes are sorted by the bullet. Yes. Raila insisted that if there is an election dispute, it must be sorted by the court.
Go to court.
Go to court. And he insisted, and he will say, as much as I don't agree with you, but I will stand by your position because you guys are in charge. Through his litigations, Raila has developed the electoral laws that we have today. He kept on litigating, and some of the things that we need to know, that I always say here, that even Bomas of Kenya is not a polling station. The polling ends at where the vote is cast. That is why he should announce everything. It is because of Raila Odinga, who has developed through his litigation the electoral laws that we have today. What will happen in case such a thing that happened like Gen Z's happened yesterday?
Now that we do not have...
Now that you don't have the guy who always calls for negotiation, the dialogue guy, the handshake guy, the conclave guy is gone.
Should we be worried?
Very. I'm
saying, if we get there, which we will get there, because as we don't deal with these young people on the streets, these 2-3 million people who don't have jobs, who don't have anything to eat, these civil servants whose pay slips have been raided, we are in a problem. Without Raila,
maybe
it is well. Just
come in.
All right. Yeah. Philip Obare, before we hand it over to Yashim on the other side, maybe to also address the question, in the absence of Raila, what happens in the political scene? Philip.
What I wanted to say, and Oscar has mentioned something very nice. We know Raila as the dialogue man. We know him as the handshake man. We now know him as most recently as the conclave man. And this country has overly discounted the place of dialogue and, negotiations in conflict. In conflict, the biggest thing is compromise. We know for a fact that there are people in this country that would rather get the bullet and kick the can down the road than sit around the table and negotiate. And one thing that Kenyans must learn today is to emulate the dialogue nature of Raila Odinga, that conflict. Today, in all the war-torn zones, even in the conflict between Gaza and Israel, what has ultimately happened, that to reach a truce, people have to sit across the table and look at each other in the eye and say, we have to stop this. And so Kenyans must learn something, that is not violence that is going to stop us from, lift us out of poverty. It's not violence that is going to get us out of bad governance, but it's going to be continuous dialogue and communicating with each other, which is something that we are really trying to avoid, which is something that we've, called Raila Molo's name on in many negative ways. So my plea to Kenyans today is that let us learn the place of dialogue.
Conflict. I'd want to give the Reverend a moment to just make a comment as we come to a close, as we answer this question. We might not be able to come back to this side of the studio, given that we have already been given the schedule that the program is set to start at Nyayo Stadium at exactly 9 a.m. And I want to hand it over now to Hashim and his panel to take us through to Nyayo Stadium. Just one word, Reverend, as we bring this to a close. In the absence of Raila Amolo Odinga, as Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga.
Let's insist on institutions operation, not individualistic.
All right.
Let's love one another as we love ourselves. Begin with ourselves, love everybody, and be one. Again, I repeat what he has said. Dialogue and institutional operations.
Dialogue and institutional operations.
There's just one thing.
The father of dialogue is dead. I'm so worried about the crop of leaders we have here. I'll say it and repeatedly that if the father of dialogue is dead, dialogue is dead. Gachagua, Ruto, and all the crop of leaders that we have today, if we're not careful, they might take us to the brink. If the father of dialogue doesn't wake up, I hope the father of dialogue resurrects in the spirit of the people.
You know, dead men don't tell tales, but we can, as you said, the king lives alive.
His spirit lives. I hope the spirits of dialogue and the spirit of Raila resurrect and help this country. Otherwise, if we go the 207 way without dialogue man, if we go the Gen Z way without the dialogue man, if we go the 2013 way without dialogue man, then my goodness.
We will have institutions working. Obare, parting shot?
Pande. So one last thing, and this is a really solemn request from the Pan-African Youth Forum that has been working with Raila Amolo Odinga on the youth agenda, that let us build an institution in the name of Raila Amolo Odinga. And that institution should be an equivalent of the Mandela Washington Fellows, the Tutu Fellows, so that we have the Raila Amolo Odinga Fellowship Program to nurture the next crop of Africa's public and private sector leaders. Thank you.
All right. The panel that I've been handling this morning, led by none other Reverend Dr. Alphonse Kanga, who is the Regional Chair, National Council of Churches of Kenya, as well as Oscar Omondi, who is a political analyst, and last but not least, Philip Obare, Raila's Youth Inclusion Advisor. I'm Regina Manyara. I'd want to hand you over to Abdi Aziz Hashim with his panel on the other side of studio to take us through the last few minutes before the National Memorial Service starts off at the Nyayo National Stadium. I'm Regina Manyara. Over to you, Abdi Aziz Hashim.
Well, Ray, thank you so much. And your panel, what you're witnessing, viewers, if you're just joining us, the body of the late Raila Amolo Odinga has arrived in Parliament. Remember, this is an exercise that was expected to happen yesterday, but did not due to the number of supporters and mourners who had trickled in to the gates of Parliament yesterday, waiting to see if the body will be brought there. But unfortunately, it was taken to Kasarani. That is where people were able to see the body of the late Premier. Currently, President William Ruto, who has already led the exercise, he has viewed once again the body of Raila Amolo Odinga, paid his last respect. Mama Rachel Ruto as well, including other high-ranking government officials. That lineup you're currently seeing on your screens is a host of legislators, principal secretaries, cabinet secretaries have already had an opportunity, including the Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Kipchumba Murkomen. You can see there the members of Parliament paying their last respect, including Sako Member of Parliament. You also see Rafael Wanjala of Budalangi, a number of host of legislators who are making and paying their last respect. They remember this is an exercise that was expected yesterday to happen, but did not due to the number of people who had thronged to Parliament buildings. Yesterday, even the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate came out to try and cool the people down so that they can at least have their say. You can even see on your screen, I believe that is the Homa Bay Governor, Gladys Wanga. There you have it. Even the governors already have conglomerated there in Parliament. Remember, President William Ruto, the Deputy President as well, who has already viewed the bodies, are currently leading a meeting, currently held up in the VIP section, speaking to the both speakers of the National and the Senate. They will get that particular opportunity to go to Nyayo Stadium. All these particular leaders, as and when they finish this particular exercise, the procession will start from Parliament all the way to Nyayo Stadium. I remember the body was being preserved at Lee Funeral Home. In the morning, it was taken from Lee Funeral Home. The procession started there all the way to Parliament Buildings, where currently the ODM leader Raila Odinga is currently situated at. Even former leaders we can see have made their way to Parliament. That is Senator Moses Kajwang. We can see a number of legislators and senators paying their last respects. Remember, this is a man who, of course, was revered by not only the members of Parliament here, but leaders across the country. Our very own Tom, who is currently with us here, he told us a little bit earlier on that he had mentored so many people, not just in the political field, but in various other fields, including the youths of this country. You even heard from Philip Pandey on the other side, who is Raila Odinga's youth advisor to the party and to the Azimio coalition itself back in 2022, that he has mentored so many people. You can see the body of the former premier just lying there so that the people can get a view of the great man. Remember that given that this is a state funeral, this is an exercise that was expected to happen yesterday but did not. It is happening today on the corridors of the Augusta House. Remember, over the former heads of state are always accorded this particular respect when it is a state funeral. Maybe, Tom, talk to us. The body has arrived there at Parliament. It is expected to go to Nyayo National Stadium, where people are waiting to see the body of this great man. But earlier on, we were talking about in terms of how considerate he was. He clearly stated he should be buried within 72 hours. Yes. Normally, it will take a week or more than a week for a person of his great stature to be laid to rest.
Watching this is kind of really sad, because somehow we get to think of our friends and the people we know and we hold dear that they will never go. Yes. So seeing this live, it's some sort of reality check for me. Yeah. Raila was very special in many ways. He mentored a lot of people. A lot of youth, and he also gave them a lot of confidence and access to power, to organizations, to knowledge that they would otherwise not have. I mean, I remember every time he came to Europe, even from the time I was a student and after left, I was working in Switzerland, we would converge with a lot of other students and Kenyan students also from other countries of Africa and the rest of the world. And it would just be like one of us, you know, we'd live together, go watch football, talk, and we discuss all sorts of things. I mean, current affairs, given that there was always a generation gap. So I think it was very, very important for him to always have a company of very young people to understand what the future wants. And that's why he was quite ahead of other politicians, because he could resonate very well with the younger generation, much younger generation. Most politicians tend to hang around people of their age group, but Raila didn't have that. I think that it also helped that he started out of the country, so he didn't have people that he went to college with here. That probably helped. And Raila also, he had also the ability to have a lot of confidence in young people. I remember many times it would just take me with him, and he's going to meet a president or he's going to meet somebody that's very important, Jesse Jackson, I don't know, Sarkozy, Putin, and he would just take me with him. And then at some point he would just leave me with them. Or it took me many times to, I was in my 20s, and it took me to Moi. I mean, considering that we had been fighting Moi during the clamor for multi-party democracy. Yes. And shortly when we got into NDP, so Moi comes to Switzerland, he tells me we're going to have breakfast with the president. And I mean, I'd spent my life being indoctrinated that this guy was a bad guy. So we walk with him to the room, and he leaves me with Moi. Then turns out that the guy is quite a very nice guy. So I'm like conflicted, because I've been told he's a bad guy, and here he is serving me tea and asking me questions about how the country should grow, and a much younger person. So it helped me as a person to grow, to be able to understand that certain things happen because the situation is what it is, but not necessarily that you have to hold that grudge. And another thing also that it did to many, not just me, to many young people is it opened doors. I mean, I was with him at the UN, at many corporate meetings in Europe, with him all over Europe and all that, and that he could entrust certain activities and duties to somebody much younger, you know, like going with him to France, and there's a room and there's Putin, the Sarkozy, and I mean, he's prime minister. I don't work for the government. Yeah. You know, it's a very interesting thing. That trust is very important, and that's why you have a lot of people that really love him unconditionally. You know, Raila's one person. You'd be with Raila in the morning at State House, right? And in the evening, he tells you from nowhere, we're going to go to Kibera for some funeral. So he was able to dissect the strata of society with the mighty in the morning and with the really, really simple people in the evening. And it's still the same. It's just behaving the same as he did at State House, and we are now in Kibera at 10 o'clock in the night, and we're just sitting with all this youth. And I'm wondering, in the morning we were at State House now. So it was that kind of person. I mean, he was able to give us the necessary exposure that humbles, right? That gives you a totally different worldview. So it's a great man.
Kevin, also, as you talk to the images that you're currently seeing on your screen, in terms of, we can even see in Nyayo Stadium, people are holding white flags. Many have called Raila Odinga a peacemaker in this country. So in terms of that particular role and the demeanor he had carried himself with, in terms of bringing people together, how was that be able to achieve, especially from his end?
Hashim, if you walk out there and you listen to a number of people, they will tell you that Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga spoke for them. That even when they were considered to be voiceless, his voice was a voice of the voiceless. And given indeed the kind of protocol and security arrangements that the people in the stature of Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga are given when they're alive, sometimes it becomes very difficult for them to reach out to him, you know, and even just have very informal, extraordinary discussions, conversations, except when it is organized. And so this kind of show, in terms of the show of the numbers in their might, the white handkerchief, the white flags, these are symbols of their own celebration of a gentleman who spoke for them, a man who really stood tall for peace. And for 5 times you run for president in this country and you don't make it. But over time, even when the nation is at the brink of falling, Raila Odinga, Mheshimiwa Baba Tinga, Jaramogi always stood out to be that person to bring in the bridges that would then be able to calm down the storms. And so Kenyans who relate with the spirit of peace of Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga really symbolize the white handkerchiefs that we see with the people carrying out there, symbolize the life of peace that they would wish to see for this country. And I think that it is important that the government realizes that the kind of numbers that they see on the streets right now indicate that in as much as Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga did not make it for the presidency, despite the fact that he won. Somebody told me that 3 out of those 5 times Raila won the election. And some of us know that the election was won by Raila Odinga. But because of the establishment, the institutions, those are symbols of the kind of peace that Kenyans expect of Kenya to be even after his departure. That his spirit will continue to live, the spirit of peace in the by-elections that are currently ongoing, even in the election that is upcoming in 2027. They are seemingly saying that we are sending off Baba with peace, and that spirit of peace will reverberate across all the sectors of our government, whether it is in women empowerment, whether it is in devolution, whether it is in infrastructure development, whether it is in youth engagement. They are simply telling the government and the people who are watching them in their numbers that this is the kind of spirit that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga stood for. They're actually sending strong messages to the political class. That and we saw what happened yesterday, that sometimes they were even so uncontrollable that some of the voices that we even expected to speak to them were not able to, cement the message which they wanted the people to hear.